in 5 years. I don't want to hear about it now because none of us are really sure, exactly. But right now, based on his stats, yeah, he's up there in career numbers, but he plays in a pass-happy era, which means your numbers are going to be good. But then you look around at other guys. I could think, and again, passing numbers to me are relative. Phil Simms. I remember interviewing Phil Simms. Obviously the former Giants quarterback. Now he played on 2 Super Bowls, but he didn't quarterback the second Super Bowl, for the Giants because he was injured. But I asked Phil Simms, if you'd have won that second Super Bowl, would you be in Canton? And he says, yeah. He really felt that way. So it's a moving target, Caroline. Some people really value Super Bowl wins, of course, and well, they should. But how did you play in those Super Bowls too? And as far as Stafford is concerned, he engineered the drive of his life. He wasn't having a great day, and he got them in the end zone at the end. Did he have some help from the officials? Maybe a little, but those calls, it's fine. Those calls were borderline. They weren't gifts. But it's interesting in a game where they let him play. They didn't let him play at the end. But whatever the case, he got him in the end zone. And I think a lot of people will, feel like that's the crowning achievement. That's the icing on the cake, for a guy like Stafford. And I just don't see that.
And I make this Matthew Stafford, Derrick Henry comparison, understanding good and well that a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame running back are 2 very, very different things. But looking at it from the perspective of if you're going to make that comparison with the Tennessee Titans, I feel safe to say that Derrick Henry is probably the closest one there. But I look at ProFootballReference.com, and they have this Hall of Fame metric broken down by each position group. Now, the average Hall of Fame quarterback, and they use metrics of Super Bowls and stats, passing stats, rushing stats, whatever it may be, Pro Bowls, and the average ranking and grade for a Hall of Fame quarterback is around 109. Matthew Stafford currently sits at 68. Now you look at the running back side of things, and for a running back, the average, score is 107. And then you see Derrick Henry sitting much further behind, with the Matthew Stafford comparison on the quarterback side, and Derrick Henry sitting at 27. But I do wonder if that metric will change for a running back because the position has changed so much. I mean, you look at, for example, Walter Payton, who sitting at a 214, which is essentially a double Hall of Fame career. But the way that a running back is utilized is so completely different these days. So, Walter Payton, for having a cumulative almost 17,000 yards in his career, is going to be completely different for the way that you look at running backs now. But if you look at the achievements, you look at the Matthew Stafford side of things and the Derrick Henry side of things, Matthew Stafford has yet to be crowned with an individual achievement. Derrick Henry, on the other side, has a 2,000-yard rushing season, has back-to-back rushing championships. He has the individual achievements, but just doesn't have the Lombardi and doesn't have necessarily the longevity in his career that Matthew Stafford has. And that's another caveat, is the Hall of Fame now become a longevity achievement?
To a degree, because they look at your numbers. Mm-hmm. But how good were you in some of those years? Jerry Rice lasted a long time, but we don't even think about the last 5 years of his career. He was spectacular. He was the best. For maybe a 10-year period. And there are others. In my opinion, Derrick Henry is 2 good seasons away from the Hall of Fame. If he gets to 10,000 yards, I think he's encroaching on Canton. He has another 2,000-yard season. I think he's absolutely in Canton. I don't know how you could keep someone who rushed for over 2,000 yards, and I'll admit the 17th game colors that a little bit. But you break it down, yards per carry and all that. A guy that they knew was coming, and look at the numbers that he's put up. Pretty remarkable. And that's why I really, really hope, he comes back from that foot injury, Didn't look good in the playoffs, but with an off season to heal, it's going to be interesting to see how Henry does this year and down the line, because he's sort of reaching that point where the average running back's career starts tapering off. The great ones sustain it. Emmitt Smith went a lot longer than a lot of people thought, and he ended up with the rushing record. By the time Walter Payton was on a Super Bowl winning team, but he was hardly a factor, in that Bears win over the Patriots,
right,
in that Super Bowl. So, again, a moving target.
And that is another point, is the shelf life of running backs has just been reduced significantly. But we'll get into your phones coming up next. Was Matthew Stafford just a Super Bowl away from the Hall of Fame? And we'll put that same argument on the Titan side of things. Is Derrick Henry just a Super Bowl away from the Hall of Fame? And if not, what more do you need to see him do? We'll get into your thoughts coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get into your thoughts coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Caesar Sportsbook, and this is the Caesar Sportsbook Report. Unfortunately, football is over. But don't worry, because the action will still continue on the Caesar Sportsbook app. Plus, there's a great new offer from Caesars. If you download the app and use code RADIOEAT, one word, RADIOEAT, RADIOEAT, and when you wager $50 or more total, you'll get a $250 Uber Eats gift card. Now, the 2021 season is over, but you can still put some money on the 2022 season. So interesting enough, Caesar Sportsbook has released their MVP odds for the 2022 season. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes both listed as with the best odds to win MVP next year, sitting at plus 700. Aaron Rodgers would be the only other player to win MVP 3 seasons consecutively. Former one was actually Brett Favre, another Packers alum who accomplished that feat doing it 95, 96, 97. So if you think that Aaron Rodgers can get it done, can get an MVP 3 years in a row, put some money on it. It's got some pretty good odds, and do it with the Caesar Sportsbook app. Must be 21, offer valid in Tennessee only. New customers with eligible promo code only. Real money wagers only that have minimum odds of minus 200. $250 gift card redemption code and steps to redeem gift card will be sent via email within 72 hours. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesar Sportsbook. Download it, people.
Every Friday at 8:30 on Robbie and Rex Show, we talk with the legend, Terry Chris, about all things Nashville Predators, presented by Copper Branch on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Attention veterans of Middle Tennessee. Little Guys Movers wants to put your hard-earned skills and leadership talent to work with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. Be your own boss and build a team with standards as high as your own, and all while serving your community with the same hustle that you served your country. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Start a fulfilling, profitable new chapter of your life as a member of a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com.
Hey everybody, Robbie Stanley here to tell you about my friends at Jasper's. Jasper's is a casual restaurant and bar located on West End Avenue, equipped with TVs, a game room available for private events, a grab-and-go market, and free parking. Yes, free parking. This neighborhood spot is Nashville's new go-to restaurant and bar. You can try their selection of elevated bar food ranging from appetizers to chicken sandwiches to flatbread pizzas and the famous Smash Burger, as well as any of their delicious cocktails. So visit my friends at Jasper's, located at 1918 West End Avenue, and tell them that Robbie sent you.
Are you a father that is passionate about your fundamental constitutional right to parent your own child or children? Has your parenting time or your income been affected by COVID? This is Amanda J. Gentry, and I am a fierce defender of your constitutional rights. The courts in Tennessee are under an obligation to maximize equal parenting time. We do not live in an every other weekend world anymore. At the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, fathers are extremely important, much like my own father was. Go to amandajgentry.com or call or text 615-604-6263. That's amandajgentry.com.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now. They have same-day delivery for your convenience and pay nothing down today. Use Social Furniture financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. They can deliver any size mattress the same day during their President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Do you think Stafford is a Hall of Famer?
I do not. Right now, I do not. I agree with Sherman. Look, Matthew Stafford just had a hell of a postseason, hell of a season, and deserves a lot of credit for proving his critics wrong. But I think we got to pump the brakes a little on going right from the Super Bowl to Canton. My opinion is that the Hall of Fame, the bar that Sherman refers to, should be that a player has been either the best or among the best at his position, ideally for some period of time. Matthew Stafford has played 12 seasons in the NFL. In those 12 seasons, he's been in 1 Pro Bowl, never been an All-Pro. He has finished top 5 in passer rating once and top 5 in touchdowns 3 times. Now, the case for him getting in at this point is this incredible postseason run and all the counting stats, right? The fact that he ranks so high in career yards and touchdowns. But you got to look at the NFL and how it's changed over the last few years, last decade really, and you're going to see if you start leaning on those counting stats, a lot of players will get in simply because of the changing nature of football and how long they've played. Matthew Stafford still has a chance to get in if he continues to play at a high level longer and gets to more Super Bowls, absolutely. But for right now, can't we just enjoy what he's accomplished without putting him in a gold jacket?
That was Mina Kimes on Get Up earlier, and I have to say that I agree with her. Look, he won a Super Bowl, which is great, but can't we just enjoy the Super Bowl? Can't we just enjoy what he has done without trying to label him as either a Hall of Famer or not a Hall of Famer? Can we just admit that he's done great things in his career so far? He's not up there with the pinnacle of the rest of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. He could get there if he continues success, but if this is it for Matthew Stafford, if he retires today, then he's just not there yet, and I think that's okay to admit.
I can't ever remember a time in his career where we've said Matthew Stafford is a top 5 quarterback. I can't ever remember a time when we talked about the top quarterbacks in the league and his name never really came up. I understand he wasn't always with a good team, but he had a Hall of Fame receiver in Detroit. You know, it wasn't like he was without weapons. And to me, for a lot of his career, Matthew Stafford was sort of like Drew Bledsoe. You know, a guy who put up good numbers, but always threw that killer pick at some point in the game. And, you know, he wasn't one of those guys that when the fourth quarter came around, if you're the opposition, your knees would start shaking. So, and I understand with Stafford, there are some mitigating circumstances because he didn't play on a lot of good teams. But I believe for a lot of years, his record against winning teams was terrible. I mean, like 2-30. So I don't regard a guy like that as a Hall of Fame quarterback. And the narrative might change over the next few years. But right now, come on.
And another argument that I hear a lot from the pro Matthew Stafford in the Hall of Fame crowd is, well, he played for the Lions. What do you expect? When I hear Hall of Fame, like that to me means something. That means that the men that are put up when their busts are in Canton, that means that they are the best at the best of what they have done. That is the greatest honor that you could have in the game of football. So if you start to put people in because, he played for the Lions, what can you expect? Well, I expect from a Hall of Fame quarterback the kind of quarterback that's able to elevate a team, and the type of quarterback that's able to take a team like the Lions or Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals, for example, and be able to take them out of the pits of the NFL and bring them into contenders. That, to me, is a famous quarterback. That's a quarterback that should be amongst the ranks of some of the best that's ever done it.
Interesting. I believe Vrabel said about Tannehill that he needs the team around him to elevate him, as opposed to maybe a great quarterback like Burrow who elevates the rest of his team. And I believe that happened. Stafford, I don't want to say no. I don't want to say yes. But, he's going to be a lightning rod for sure because it's a split decision right now.
And I that is another thing is, I mentioned that the Hall of Fame means something, whether it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame, whether it's the Baseball Hall of Fame, whatever it may be, you are the best at what you've done. And you kind of look back at the 2022 Pro Football Hall of Fame class, and I think that a lot of people were fairly underwhelmed. So I kind of have to ask the question, is the Hall of Fame becoming diluted? Are there players that have gotten in, they may not have necessarily stood the test of time. They may not necessarily have had the greatest careers or may not necessarily be amongst the ranks of the men that are already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Is it kind of getting diluted?
I don't know if it's getting diluted. I think you're always going to have an argument about certain players. For instance, you look at Lynn Swann.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn Swann didn't have 400 career catches as a wide receiver, but he was spectacular in a couple of Super Bowls, and that's what stood out with him. He was on that Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty, and that's what happens sometimes. There are guys whose numbers don't – if you look at Joe Namath and look at his numbers, he played in a different era. I believe he had more interceptions than touchdowns or was close to being even. It was just a different time where, defensive backs could mug receivers. So you've got to, to me, so much in life is context. And when you're making an argument involving stats, there has to be some context as far as when they played, who they played for, and that's what makes this a tough decision. I worked for 15 years with Frank Wycheck, who had a terrific career, over 500 catches. And he would ask me on the air, and you feel terrible. He goes, should I be in the Hall of Fame? I go, I love you. But no, it's not the Hall of the Very Good. It's for the elite players. And Frank was very close, believe me. But it's like Eddie George. I don't think Eddie George is ever going to get in. To me, that doesn't diminish who he was as a player. Eddie George was a fantastic player. He was a leader. He was a warrior. But in the end, his stats are a little bit short. And unfortunately for him, I think now, with running backs routinely, getting to 11 and 12,000 career yards, it's going to be even harder for somebody like Eddie to get in. His career yards per carry is under 4. There are a lot of, pro and con arguments. But if you watched Eddie George, he was, for a while an elite player. Maybe not long enough. And that's the other thing, you've got to ask yourself. Running backs now, because coaches are a little more cognizant about load management, last a little bit longer in the NFL than they used to. It used to be 3 or 4 or 5 years and you were gone. Now, Derrick Henry has carried a pretty heavy load for the Titans after not doing so much on the front end of his career. So I believe, and this is really his first serious injury, the foot. So I think in Henry's case, keep coming back to him because I think, that's the most relevant to our listeners, I think he's got a great shot. I really do. I think he's got 2 or 3 at least good years ahead of him, and that could end up punching his ticket to Canton.
I think in terms of Derrick Henry, you look at a few things, a few boxes that he could check, whether that's a Super Bowl, and I don't think it's a Super Bowl alone. It could be a Super Bowl, multiple Pro Bowls, another 2,000-yard rushing season, which I understand is a lot easier said than done. But if anyone can do it, I feel like he's the guy to do it. Another rushing title, whatever it may be. Is it a mix and match of 2 out of the few of those things? Whatever it may be, Derrick Henry absolutely is writing a resume, but just isn't there yet.
Well, and the other part of this too, Caroline, they don't ask that about receivers. They don't ask how many championships, receiver, played on. They don't, Aaron Donald was going to Canton regardless of whether the Rams won last Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. He's the guy you hear his name. Hall of Fame? Yes.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford? I don't know.
But it's funny how with quarterbacks, Super Bowls, are definitely part of the equation, to be sure.
And you brought up a point about Ryan Tannehill that I want to get to next, because you said Mike Vrabel said, well, you got to be great around Ryan Tannehill. And ESPN just released their 2 early power rankings for the 2022 season. They said that's exactly what the Titans need to do next season, is be great around Tannehill. What exactly does that mean, and what do the Titans need to do to accomplish that? We will get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought, we'll take your calls and your texts. You're listening to Stillman and Company, and we are live on ESPN 1025 The Game.
Hey, I'm Ryan Johansson, and this is Smashville.
Back to Johansson, and Johansson tips it in with one hand on the stick.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Think back to a time when you've had to contend with a difficult challenge in your life, but that, in the end, came out okay. I'm willing to bet that in almost all those cases, you had someone alongside you that you trusted, whether the challenge related to a career change, a health crisis, or even the death of a loved one. But if the challenge is divorce, and you're a guy, there's a good chance that your trusted friend for all life's challenges to date has been your spouse, whom the legal system now terms the opposing party. This is why guys notoriously are prone to feeling isolated and alone during the divorce process. The good news is you don't have to go through this alone. Let Cordell and Cordell be the partner that you can count on through the challenges of divorce. Call us at 866-DADS-LAW or visit CordellCordell.com. You are not alone.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell and Cordell's Nashville area attorneys. 866-DADS-LAW, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067. CordellCordell.com.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as 2 weeks from now with no cost to you and zero hassle. Mike and Joan in Brentwood called Loan Pronto and they did a Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi. They got a check for $100,000. They used $50,000 to pay off all of their credit cards and a car loan. Use the other $50K to upgrade their master bath and kitchen. They locked in a new APR in the 2s and lowered their total monthly bills by hundreds of dollars. Hello? What are you waiting on? Call Loan Pronto now and convert your home value into cash. Put that money to good use. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
It's the official Bud Light Preds watch party as your Nashville Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes this Friday. Puck drops at 6 p.m., but the party starts at 5:30 with all kinds of specials. See you at headquarters, Beercade, downtown Nashville on 2nd Avenue. Go Preds!
Mid-State Sports League spring registration is now open. Adults can register for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, kickball, flag football, and basketball. With the largest leagues in Nashville, there's a league for everyone. For more information about youth or adult sports, visit midstatesports.com.
ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Presented by FreedomTireGuys.com, Nashville's premier mobile tire company. Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Poyle. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
As a quarterback situation is concerned, like, what is it about Ryan Tannehill that you feel should make him the quarterback next year and in years beyond?
We've got elite toughness. We have to be great around him, but he's shown signs of accuracy, of decision making, to the ability to extend plays and to scramble, and and leadership. So those are all things that you look for in a quarterback, and Ryan showed us that. Unfortunately, we turned the ball over on Saturday.
That was Mike Vrabel on Ryan Tannehill. Hey, he's a great leader, but you got to be great around him. And Mark, since I've been in Nashville, it's been about a year now, I've learned how to speak Mike Vrabel and kind of read between the lines. I don't think that's necessarily a glowing endorsement to say that you have to be great around someone in order for this team to find success.
No, it's when I was in college and they were trying to fix me up on dates, they would typically describe me as a good dancer and great company. No, I'm just kidding.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see. I feel like that still exists today, too.
No,
I've seen your moves, Mark. They're great.
But in all seriousness, if you hear what Vrabel said, he's shown signs of accuracy.
Showing signs. He's not accurate, but he's shown signs.
Holy cow. That is not a ringing endorsement
not
of your
at all.
quarterback.
Not even a little bit. And when Mike Vrabel first said that, I thought in my mind, oh my gosh, Mike Vrabel wants to move on from Ryan Tannehill because
I don't know if he wants to move on. I think he understands.
I think we've learned since then. No, they do not.
I think he understands that they are joined at the hip for at least another year. So he's not going to throw his guy under the bus. That is not Vrabel's style. Vrabel will defend his players to the very end. And I get that. And he should. And there's a reason why he was the coach of the year. He knows, he understands what a player goes through. Being a former player not very long ago. And I think that's really, helped shape his philosophy in terms of how he manages a season. Now, with all that being said, his descriptions, about Tannehill, he's tough. They're all tough. I mean, you can't play in the NFL as a quarterback and not be tough.
And also his comments about elite toughness. What does that even mean? How can you be elitely tough? But I want to focus in on what Mike Vrabel said about you have to be great around Tannehill, because ESPN just released their way too early rankings for 2022. They have the Tennessee Titans listed at 8. They have Kansas City and Buffalo at 2, the Rams at 3, Green Bay 4, Cincinnati 5, San Francisco 6, Dallas 7, and Tennessee 8. So the Titans sitting in pretty great company, at least in the ESPN way too early standards. But it says the Tennessee Titans offseason in 3 or fewer words. Great around Tannehill. Exactly what Mike Vrabel said. But my question is, what does be great around Tannehill mean? And what are those pieces that the Titans need to accumulate in the offseason? Tight end is very much so a glaring one. But in this article, they mention, Tannehill has his favorite target in A.J. Brown, and he's growing chemistry with Julio Jones. To me, that's not enough. And of course, you have Derrick Henry, who is going to be great around Tannehill. But having A.J. Brown and a, quote, growing chemistry with a wide receiver who's always hurt and is only getting older, that's not enough. Throw a tight end into the mix, I don't think that means that you're necessarily great around Tannehill. And I think there's more additions than just tight end to be great around Ryan Tannehill.
Well, first of all, it's a great conversation starter. But in my opinion, nothing could be less relevant than power rankings right now because we haven't gotten into free agency, and, of course, we haven't gotten through the draft. So we have no idea how these teams are going to look next year. As far as Tannehill is concerned, in the words of Judge Judy, don't whiz on me and tell me it's raining. And Vrabel gave a pretty frank assessment, and I think spot-on assessment, about Tannehill. He's not a guy. He's not Tom Brady, okay? He's not Peyton Manning.
But with the way that the Titans' offense is constructed, the Titans don't need Ryan Tannehill to be Tom Brady or to be Peyton
No, he
Manning.
doesn't, and that was his point. We have to be good around Ryan Tannehill because Ryan Tannehill is not going to take this team on his back and lead them to the promised land. He's just not that guy. He's not terrible, but he's not elite. And right now, the Titans screwed up. John Robinson, by and large, had a good year in some respects. The draft was almost a total wash, as far as players contributing in their first season. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad draft class because we got to give it a few years. But he really didn't address the tight end situation sufficiently, and I thought that was a major mistake. The Julio Jones trade, I don't think Julio's coming back.
You don't think Julio's coming back?
No.
You think he's done?
I think they're going to cut him.
What?
Yeah.
How can the Titans cut him when they invested so much money into him?
Because they're capped out, and they've got to look at this team, with cold, wide eyes, and make some tough decisions. So there are going to be guys that they're going to have to cut. Jackrabbit Jenkins is gone. I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Well, that feels pretty inevitable. Roger Saffold, another one that just feels like it's going to be too expensive to keep on.
Saffold is gone.
But with Julio Jones's contract, the way that it's constructed, they're going to take a cap hit no matter what.
Yeah, I think the Titans, and this is just my opinion, I think the hammy drama every week, got a little tiresome, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that, Hammygate is about over as far as Julio is concerned. Nothing against him, but he just wasn't that guy. He wasn't that guy that separated, against defensive backs. You rarely saw flashes of vintage Julio. And unfortunately, with receivers, once they start to lose it, they lose it. They're gone. It's really hard, for a receiver who's lost a step or two to make up for that in other ways. And, obviously Julio, is a big guy and, can win some battles, can make some combat catches. But still, I just think the risk reward, the Titans are going to look at it and probably draft another receiver or maybe even sign one and cut Julio and cut their losses.
I mean, I didn't even consider cutting Julio as an option because I also look at how detrimental will that be in terms of John Robinson just failing on so many free agent signings. You look at Jadeveon Clowney, that was a bust. Julio Jones investing not just draft picks but a lot of money and also years on his contract.
But he's also had some good signings. Danico Autry was a great signing.
Yes.
There were others. I thought even Jenkins, made some contributions as they tried to, plug some.
I'm not going to sing John Robinson's praises because of Jackrabbit Jenkins. He
No,
was fine.
he was okay.
He was fine.
And maybe that's a bad example. But listen, I mean, they went for it, and it didn't work. And the thing I've noticed about John Robinson, if you make a mistake, you just cut your losses and keep moving. And that's the way it is in the NFL. You don't hang on to a guy just because of his contract. I just don't think they're going to do that.
I think that's exactly what they're doing with Ryan Tannehill. I mean, Julio Jones has a cap hit of $14 million.
Yes, but you can, but he's not really contributing. Tannehill, even had a so-so season, but you can't replace a quarterback like you can a wide receiver. And Julio wasn't really a big part of the attack. He was never out there. So I think the Titans are going to go in a different direction. At least that's the way I feel.
We'll ask Chris Sanders what he thinks the Titans will do with Julio Jones. We'll also ask him what he thinks it means to be truly great around Ryan Tannehill. We'll talk to forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders coming up next. But before we do that, I want to let you know that you can join the Nashville Superspeedway and 102.5 The Game for the official NASCAR Daytona 500 watch party this Sunday at Third and Home at 919 3rd Avenue North. Starting at 1 p.m., NASCAR fans and sports fans alike are encouraged to come out and join in the fun while enjoying a full menu of food and drinks at Third and Home. Those in attendance can take the opportunity to purchase tickets for this summer's NASCAR triple-header weekend, and they'll have a chance to win great prizes courtesy of 102.5 The Game and Nashville Superspeedway, Music City's home for NASCAR Cup racing.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. We're cloudy, breezy, and warm this afternoon with highs in the upper 60s. We are Code Red for storms that will move in tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, what's going on? It's Chase McCabe and BetMGM. They welcome you with a special offer on, you guessed it, the NBA. Simply place a $10 moneyline wager on any game. If either team hits a three-pointer, you'll win $200 in free bets. All you have to do is use the bonus code 1025GAME200 when you make your first bet. Plus, you'll earn BetMGM reward points that can be redeemed for online bonuses or converted into comps for rooms, restaurants, and more at over 20 MGM resorts nationwide. BetMGM is proud to be an authorized gaming partner of the NBA. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com. Use that code 1025GAME200 to win $200 in free bets if either team hits a three-pointer. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I want to talk to you about my friends at Creation CBD. You hear me talk about them every single day because they present Darren, Donick, and Chase, and we are proud to be associated with them and happy about it. And if you have aches and pains, on your body, whether it's from working out, being active, getting older, and you're looking for a solution, well, I've got it. Creation CBD. Creation means healing, and that says a lot. Creation is locally and organically sourced CBD products right here in Middle Tennessee. From seed to final sell, Creation is passionate about providing quality products for everyday use, including your pets. And you've heard me tell this story. Our female German Shepherd has had seizures for over 3 years, and lots of them. No matter how many pills a day she was on, the vet visits, nothing changed. But since putting her on the pet tincture, everything has changed. The seizures have stopped, she's lost weight, and she's a dog again. Right now, Creation CBD has got a special offer for DDC listeners. Go to CreationCompany.com, get 25% off your order by using the code DDC25 at checkout. DDC25 at checkout for 25% off your Creation CBD products. It's Creation CBD, curated for life.
Hey, what's going on? Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, is it true that according to the American Dental Association, roughly 80% of people in the U.S. have some form of gum disease?
That's right, but our non-surgical periodontal therapy is painless and effective in keeping your mouth healthy. And the mouth is the window to the health of the rest of the body.
I know you have some different things that you offer. What else can you tell us?
Well, first, who doesn't want whiter teeth? Our new Zoom LED whitening system is less sensitive, and you get more than 5 shades of whitening. And we just upgraded both our lasers to kill bacteria during your cleaning.
What about taking care of cold sores some people may have, which can become painful? Can lasers help with that too?
Yes, the gentle laser setting will kill the virus in your cold sores all naturally while reducing the healing time by half. And our special soft tissue wand uses warm, light laser therapy to give instant relief to severe TMJ pain. Our approach to holistic dentistry is unique.
Give Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine a call today at 615-373-4488 or visit kellyerice.com. You'll certainly be glad you did.
Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
You are listening to Stillman and Company live from the Hillside Medical Games Studio. Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders joins us now. Caroline Fenton joined by Mark Howard and also Chris Sanders.
What's up?
Chris.
What's up?
Mark just said that he believes that the Titans are going to move on from Julio Jones this season. He thinks that the Titans are going to cut Julio because they haven't gotten enough production from him. My personal stance on it is they've invested too many picks and too much money into Julio. He has too high of a dead cap hit, and they're just going to have to, just cut their losses and deal with Julio as is now. In your opinion, if you are John Robinson, what do you do with Julio Jones? You cut him and you go out and find a better wide receiver, or do you hold on to him and not take that cap hit?
I hate to say this. I think you kind of move away from him, and I'm not saying to move away from him because he's not a great player. I just think that to be successful in this league, you got to be available. Yeah, he's had some success for Atlanta, and yes, he has some success in the past. But I think the Julio now is just a guy who's consistently hurt. I mean, because if you look at the whole season, the time he was out there, he produced a little. But we need a prolific wide receiver that's going to be available to be in the field. Because if you look in the draft, there's some big-name receivers in the draft. There's Dotson from Penn State. You got Olave from The Ohio State University. You got Garrett Wilson from The Ohio State University also. So you got some guys that can come in and make plays right away. They can stay healthy and be on the field. So I just think you move away from him.
By the way, Chris, seriously, I really hope the Titans end up with Olave. And he will be around where they're picking, so I hope that happens. But what I really wanted to ask you was, and I told Caroline this, that I think the hammy drama week to week wears on you.
It does.
How much does it wear on his teammates, where they're not sure every week if he's going to play? They respect him for what he did, but as far as who he is now, it just seemed like every week there was an issue.
I think it was frustrating in the games. I mean, I know the fans were upset. I know we talked about it every week. But just look at when the game's on the line, Julio's not in the game. I mean, look at what the last game that they played when they played against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's the last drive, and he's not available. Is it the hamstring, or they want somebody else in there? When you have, A.J. Brown, and you have, different wide receivers, but you have Rodgers on the left as opposed to Julio, what is that saying? He's not available. He's not making plays, but he's just continuously being hurt. So I just think that, with all this going on and the drama with his hamstring, I just think, Howard, you just got to move on because it's going to continuously be a distraction.
Chris, I don't want to say I told you so.
We talked about it, didn't we?
We talked about it ad nauseum. You and I, me and Jared, you and Jared. And Jared and I said throughout this entire offseason that it's just not worth it because you look at all these different factors with a player. If he's too old, if he's too hurt, and if he's too expensive, it's just not worth it. And we said that Julio is all three of those. He's past his prime. He has a recurring hamstring issue, and he would require a big cap hit and also draft picks, which is exactly what the Titans did. And we were very against it. Do you think that the Titans would be able to step back and say, hey, look, we understand we made a mistake, but it seems like the Titans have made a good bit of free agent mistakes in the past. You look at Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah. At what point is it you're just throwing away money on free agents that really seemed like bad ideas at the time?
Yeah, you're taking a chance. And I think sometimes we fall in love with the name. And we got to remember, when you fall in love with the name like a Julio Jones, you're like, whoa, Hall of Famer, guys making big plays at the Atlanta Falcons. But you got to remember that guy's getting older. That guy heals a little slower. So when you fall into that situation, that's where you get into a lot of the trouble. And I think that right now we got to get some young guys that come in here and make plays. I understand, the situation with Dupree panned out because at the beginning of the season, Dupree was hurt and he wasn't getting no production. But later on in the season, it panned out and it worked. But the Julio Jones situation is you can get another guy. And I'm being respectful when I say this because, in my opinion, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But we don't need the guy. We need the guy that was in Atlanta. We don't need the old Julio Jones here. So I just think that they may have failed on this, but I think they're going to go out and get a receiver to replace Julio Jones because they have to make this offense better.
Chris, I hate to bring back a painful memory.
Oh, no.
But
oh, no.
You got to feel like the Titans watching the Super Bowl this year and the way the playoffs played out, that felt a little bit like, 2000 when you guys lost to the Ravens and saw them run the table.
Oh, that hurts. I mean, it does because, if you look at overall, Tennessee Titans were the better team. And if you look at in the Super Bowl, in my opinion, if the Tennessee Titans would have been in the Super Bowl, they win. I don't think Stafford and the Rams were better than the Tennessee Titans, and I didn't think the Cincinnati Bengals were better than the Tennessee Titans. It was just a couple of mistakes, not a couple, a lot of mistakes that they made against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's upsetting because you had a chance and you built a team on defense and you built a team on offense to make a run for the Super Bowl, and you come up short, and it's a bitter, bitter pill to swallow.
How cool was it to see Bryson Hopkins,
unbelievable,
who had one career reception,
unbelievable,
just break out in the Super Bowl?
But you know what that teaches me, Mark, is to trust the process because you never know when your number's going to be called. Look he caught one pass. Now here's the crazy part, Mark. Is he got activated the day of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that they were going to use him, in the Super Bowl or use him earlier in the season. It was because two guys got hurt, and it just shows you that opportunity meets preparation. This guy was prepared. This guy was focused, even though he didn't have any inclination that he wasn't going to play. So the lesson that I learned that every young kid can learn, if you just trust the process, don't quit, don't
People don't know Bryson Hopkins, the son of forever Titan Brad Hopkins, who was a terrific left tackle, and many of us remember Bryson toddling around the locker room when he was 1 or 2 years old, and
that is amazing.
And now he's a big guy, and but the other part of this too, Chris, you coach kids, you coach high school kids, and what a great teaching tool what Bryson did.
I mean, it's beautiful because, and I'm not trying to, get off the subject, but that's why I hate the transfer portal in college because you're teaching kids. Okay, if I don't like this, I can leave. If I don't like the coach, I can leave. If I'm not, first on the depth chart, I can leave. This is a perfect example that if you trust the process, you work hard, you listen to the coach, you'll put yourself in position to catch the ball. And the thing about it is, Mark, he didn't just catch a ball. He caught like 2 or 3 first downs that were critical in the game. So it just shows you that if you stay ready, stay hungry, you can do the exact same thing in a different fashion in the Super Bowl. So I think it's beautiful.
Chris, speaking of the Super Bowl, I think we saw from both teams participating, we see it from the Bengals and from the Rams as well, that if you just feed the ball to your number one guy, to your number one receiver, you're going to find a whole lot of success.
Right.
And in the NFL, which is such a copycat league, are we going to see the Titans handing the ball to A.J. Brown more next season?
I mean, I think you should because, if you look at the teams that are using their top wide receivers, and we talk about it with the Rams, they use cut, they use them in motion, they use them in the slot, they use them in so many different ways. I think you're going to start seeing that more, especially with A.J. Brown, because the teams that win are the teams that get their playmakers the ball. Look at the 49ers when you got Deebo Samuel. That guy's in the backfield. He's playing running back. He's doing wildcat. So I think that the offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, is going to start to do some things like that. He did a little smidget of it, but when you got number 22 in the backfield, I think that's the reason why he doesn't get that many touches. But if you get creative and find out ways to get in the ball, I think you'll get the same results like Cup and also Deebo Samuels.
Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders is with us. Chris, you said if you were John Robinson, you would move on from Julio Jones, get another elite wide receiver. Is there a receiver in this draft or in free agency that you would put in Julio's spot?
Me and Mark Howard just talked about it, Olave from The Ohio State University. I mean, this guy is smooth. He can run the routes. He's smart. He's from Ohio State. He's a tough kid. He's not a real
he's from
big
Ohio
kid.
State. That's why the Titans drafted him, Chris?
No.
See a little
Good hands.
homerism coming through there, Chris.
Has good hands.
He's got great hands. He's got strong hands, and he's smooth. And I think that he's one of the more polished wide receivers in this draft. I mean, I know the cat from Penn State is pretty good, and then you got his own teammate Garrett Wilson. But, man, Olave is just a guy who can be in the slot and really take the top off the defense. So, that's one of the guys that I'm looking at. I'll have to study some more wide receivers in the draft, but that's one guy that's special, run routes, polished, and can make plays down the field like what Mark was talking about.
Chris, the other part of the Super Bowl, obviously, was Matthew Stafford, and a lot of people wanting to put him in Canton. I've always said, when I work with Wycheck, we would always debate guys, and I would say, and I really don't like it because if I'm against the guy being in the Hall of Fame, I don't want to crap on his career.
Right,
but
right.
It's not the Hall of the Very Good, and I don't regard Matthew Stafford as an elite quarterback, although he is 12th lifetime in career passing yards.
Wow.
But he's got a long, he's 5,000 yards behind Aaron Rodgers.
Dang, I mean, since you just said those stats, I might have to put him in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's 12th of all time, I understand. I think sometimes we think that, okay, if a guy hasn't won a championship, then he's not a Hall of Fame wide receiver, which is true. But now he's got one under his belt. But it all depends on what he does later down the road. But when you're 12th of all time, and you're 5,000 behind Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, I think the body of work kind of speaks for itself because he's in front of a lot of elite quarterbacks that don't have his stats. So I'm not saying crown him yet, but I think you consider him by being in the Hall of Fame. Just consider, but let's see what he does later on in his career.
Last one for you, Chris. Mike Vrabel said, the team's got to be great around Tannehill. What, in your opinion, do the Titans need to do in this offseason to be great around Ryan Tannehill?
I think we talked about this, me, you, and Mark. We talked about it all season. They got to get a tight end. I mean, there's a lot of good tight ends in the league. One, Cole Turner. Then you got from Nevada, and then you got a guy named Kohler. I can't remember what college he was from. But you got to get a tight end to come in and do what that Delaney Walker or Jonnu Smith did. So that's one of the areas they need to pick up on. And I think another one they might need to do is get a slot receiver. And a great slot receiver is that cat from the Ohio State University, Olave, to really take the pressure off of those other receivers like A.J. Brown. And I don't know if Julio Jones is going to be there. But those are kind of the two areas that I would say that they really need to really improve on. But at the end of the day, I think the Tennessee Titans are a couple of plays away from being an elite team. So if they get those guys and be strong on the defense like they did before, and Tannehill plays like he did in 2020 and 2019, let's go get this Lombardi trophy, baby.
All right, Chris Sanders, we appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys so much.
We'll see you next week.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you.
Say it, Chris.
Bye-bye.
All right, Preds fans, join us for Smashville Live tonight on 102.5 The Game with special guests Preds forwards Matt Duchene and Luke Cunnin. The show will be hosted by Max Hers and Chris Mason. The show will air on Wednesdays during the Preds season from 6 to 7 p.m., featuring Preds players, former players, and other special guests. You can watch the show via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Facebook page, YouTube, and Twitter. So be sure to join us this hockey season for Smashville Live, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. I want to do a deep dive into Julio Jones because both you and Chris Sanders say Titans need to move on from him. I say I don't know if it's worth it to dive into the cap. So we want your thoughts, 615-737-1025. If you are John Robinson, how do you approach Julio Jones? No, he hasn't really done what he was brought into Tennessee to do, but is the cap hit just a little bit too much? We'll take your thoughts, your calls, your texts. You are listening to Stillman & Company, and we are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Take us wherever you may go.
There is going to be a whole lot of work going on.
Shoot us in anywhere, anytime.
I think he has some big play in him.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hi guys, did erectile dysfunction disrupt your Valentine's Day this year? Well, today, Wednesday, February 16th, we're doing something unheard of. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy, shown by Cambridge to repair blood vessels and get rid of ED at its core. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction, call us now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, will also include something unique that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. And today only, we're offering 3 additional treatments to our patients free. This means that if you notice results fading, we'll retreat you free of charge. This is worth hundreds of dollars. Call today, Wednesday, February 16th, and qualify free. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000.
Now through February 16th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, Mr. I can't sleep at night, so I keep dozing off during the day.
Especially you, Snoozy. You'll rest easier and feel fit-tacular.
Wait, how did you get in here?
Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Zero enrollment, $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends February 16th. See club for details.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about the folks at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is just around the corner, and if your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Early Spring Special in the month of February. Save up to $1,000 for Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York-certified comfort expert company.
The IRS is ramping up collection, and if you owe back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns, listen carefully. Before it's too late, check your eligibility for the Fresh Start program still offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax problems. Call our special hotline number now and find out in minutes if you qualify for these life-changing debt reduction programs. Business or personal, if you're in a payment plan with no end in sight, have unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to know your options, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief and stop collections immediately. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau with a 5-star rating from Yelp, this veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. Call their hotline number now, 800-819-1120. That's 800-819-1120. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-819-1120 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Cloud-based premium accounting software and full-service payroll for up to 100 employees.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, Caroline Fenton, joined by Mark Howard, and we are breaking down what the Titans should do with Julio Jones. We were saying, hey, Mike Vrabel said you need to be great around Ryan Tannehill. And A.J. Brown, great. Derrick Henry, great. Julio Jones was brought in to be great, brought in to be that solid number 2 target for Ryan Tannehill. Turned out that hasn't been the case. He's unavailable, he's injured, and he also is incredibly expensive. You and Chris Sanders both agree the Titans should move on from Julio Jones in 2022. I just don't think I'm there yet. Although I've been incredibly underwhelmed with what Julio Jones has brought this team, I also said from the very beginning, don't do it. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And if the Titans are forced to take a high cap hit, if they do choose to move on from Julio Jones, I mean, that only inhibits them from trying to find a good replacement and to find that elite receiver like Chris was saying.
Well, this is where it gets complicated because when he came to the Titans last year, Julio, and his agent agreed to restructure his contract, which gave the Titans an additional $11 million in cap space, which helped them, maneuver through the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though a lot of the players that went through the portals there, for the Titans, as they rang up a record number of players used, it adds up a little bit. But this year, or 2022, his cap hit is going to be over $14 million. The Titans right now, as they sit, are $8 million over the cap. And, John Robinson can restructure
Move things
some
around.
contracts. He can kick the can down the road on some contracts. Some people have said Taylor Lewan might be gone. I just don't believe it. I think the Titans are going to give him at least another year to see, because they feel like he's a year farther away from ACL surgery. And typically, you know, it takes a player really almost 2 years to recover, or at least get close to their vintage form. So I think they feel like, and I get the feeling that Luan is going to be pretty fired up about getting ready for the 2022 season, because he always fancied himself, you know, as a pretty durable guy, and that certainly wasn't the case last year. So I think if you know, given the choice, at least in my opinion, you know, I keep Luan and I let Julio walk. But again, you're right. He's a $14 million cap charge.
Got a $13.2 million dead cap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is.
Do it just a year after you signed him and a year after you extended him.
I do wonder, on this Spotrac website, it's hard to get official contract stuff from the league and all these, you know, cap hits.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Dead caps.
Well, Spotrac's pretty spot on.
They do pretty well. And so when you kind of scroll over to Julio's dead cap number, it pops up 2022 post June 1st, 4.8. So I wonder if they wait till June 1st, the dead cap goes down to 4.8 instead of the 13.2. I wonder if that's a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely more doable. And
Yeah.
if they do decide to cut him, you're obviously going to wait until after June 1st. I mean, that's doable. I mean, it's $5 million
They would have to pay him the money, you
Right.
know, and then to cut him, and that's up to ownership, I suppose. If you can get ownership's blessing about, hey, we might have to eat some money here, give them some money, but then it's going to help our cap situation. Well, I don't know.
And if they are in win now mode, which I believe the Titans should be, because the window is only shrinking smaller and smaller, I mean, bring in the guys that you believe can help you win right now. I didn't think Julio was the guy in April, May of 2021. I don't think he is now. If you're able to get rid of him without eating the $13 million of his dead cap hit before June 1st, then you do it. But let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought on Julio Jones or what the Titans can do to improve that offense to be quote-unquote great around Ryan Tannehill, like Mike Vrabel said. But Andrew texts into the text line and says, why would you cut Julio to save $1.5 million? Might as well have Julio, since you can't find a scrub for that money. I think Marcus Johnson is going to have a great year.
Marcus Johnson?
Yeah, I'm not going to hang my hopes on Marcus Johnson.
I don't think the Titans are hanging their hope on Marcus Johnson.
If you're in win now mode, you cannot put your hope into Marcus Johnson and say, hey, you know, we're really going to hope that you show out this year. That's no knock on Marcus Johnson. He's fine. He's a role player. He's a plug-and-play guy, but he's not going to be your number 2 receiver.
No. You know, and the other thing about the Titans, because of their cap situation, you know, it's not like, you know, J-Rob's going to go on a wild spending spree into free agency. I think you're going to see them augment, you know, certain areas of the team. I think if he can go out and get a tight end, he will. I I don't know about a veteran receiver. It obviously depends on what they do with Julio Jones. But I think they're going to address, like inside linebacker, and places like that. Not bringing in starters, but depth guys, because, Rashawn Evans and Jayon Brown are not coming back. So you've got to sort – and, the question is, too, who can they afford to re-sign on the defensive side of the ball? They've got to make some decisions there as well.
And Chris, and you bring up, drafting versus free agent signing, bringing in a veteran guy. And, of course, if you're in win-now mode, that would lead you to say, okay, find a guy in free agency, find a guy that can come in and help your team right now. But Chris mentioned Chris Olave in the draft. I just don't think the Titans are going to be in the right draft position to draft Chris Olave. I mean, that's a top 5, top 10 guy.
No, he's not.
Chris Olave?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
He's just not. I mean, he's projected on every draft board as someone who's going to go late in the first round.
That shocks me.
Yeah.
Well, if the Titans can pick him up, then hey, pick him up. But I just thought that Chris Olave had way too much talent to go that late in the draft. But hey, fall into the Titans' lap. Go for it. We'll go back to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter says, Julio didn't do anything but get everyone's hopes up this season. J-Rob is better off giving me his salary instead. I would say, the Titans were the one that got the hopes up about Julio Jones. Julio Jones was the way for the Titans to say, hey, look, we're going for it this year. We're going to have this big flashy name, this big splashy signing in free agency, and we're going for it. That three-headed monster on offense with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones, we are going for it. We are just a Julio Jones away from making the Super Bowl. I don't know if that was Julio Jones getting everyone's hopes up or if it was the Titans' expectations and the large contract that they signed Julio Jones to that got everyone's hope up this season.
I just think, Caroline, you've got to keep moving forward. I think Olave's going to be there late in the first round. I think another guy, if you look at I'll make a mini prediction because John Robinson has not been afraid to draft top 5 talents, who might have an injury issue. He did it with Jeffrey Simmons. It worked out. We're going to see what happens with Farley. I would not be surprised if he drafted Jameson Williams from Alabama, who, if he hadn't have torn his knee up, would definitely be a top 5 pick. But I could see him falling, late in the first round. And John Robinson, you look at his history, I could see him go. I remember that one because I really, I think I loved Olave. I think he's terrific. But if they don't get him, it wouldn't surprise me to see Jameson Williams.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're talking a lot about the Titans, but a lot of what their 2020 fate lies in is the rest of the division. What does the rest of the division look like? So we'll look at what could be potentially the scariest quarterback scenario for an AFC divisional rival. We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Stillman & Company. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Wednesday, it's me, Jared Stillman, against Joe Rexroad for Jared versus Joe. Brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Visit ParmanTractor.com, your Middle Tennessee link belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Shop the President's Day sale at Mattress Firm and save up to $500. Plus, you can get an adjustable base. That's a $499 value for free with select purchases.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director at 102.5 The Game, and when our crew is out, we want to look our best. Thankfully, we have Authentically American taking care of all of our apparel. The way your team looks is everything. Enhance your company's image with the help of veteran-owned and operated Authentically American. For you parents out there, they'll take care of your kids' team apparel, too. It's Authentically American, and yep, it's made in America. Check them out at AuthenticallyAmerican.us. Mention The Game, and they'll handle the setup and artwork free of charge. That's AuthenticallyAmerican.us.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
QC Kinetics provided amazing pain relief for a former professional baseball player, and you have access to the same life-changing treatments as retired Braves pitcher Jose Alvarez.
I put a lot of stress and strain and work on my right arm, but my right elbow took most of the damage with 3 surgeries.
Arthritis developed, and the pain was unbearable.
It wasn't just pain when I was trying to play sports. It was anytime I was moving the right elbow. It was pretty excruciating at times.
That's when Jose discovered QC Kinetics and the regenerative treatments that help the body heal itself, restoring damaged tissue and providing relief with no surgery or downtime. Jose's message to the medical professionals at QC Kinetics?
My elbow is feeling outstanding. Where were you 10 years ago, for crying out loud?
QC Kinetics is right here. Call for your complimentary consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024.
Are you a father that is passionate about your fundamental constitutional right to parent your own child or children? Has your parenting time or your income been affected by COVID? This is Amanda J. Gentry, and I am a fierce defender of your constitutional rights. The courts in Tennessee are under an obligation to maximize equal parenting time. We do not live in an every other weekend world anymore. At the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, fathers are extremely important, much like my own father was. Go to AmandaJGentry.com or call or text 615-604-6263. That's AmandaJGentry.com.
When you work here at Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station, you're joining a really great bunch of people. We care about each other, and we care about our customers. It shows in everything we do, day in, day out. And 2 of our teammates are celebrating anniversaries this month, and we want to salute them. Drew Chester on our sales team has been with us for 4 years, and Elijah Campbell, the producer of our midday show on 102.5 The Game, is celebrating 3 years. Thanks, Drew and Elijah, for all that you do, and for making Cromwell Media such a great place to work.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, I think he's done in Indy. I mean, I think when you look at what happened with Wentz and the way the season ended, and you hear all the things and reports coming out of Indianapolis, there's not a lot of. It does not feel like it's a hopeful situation. I would say this though, Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, and Jim Irsay all understand. It's not just letting somebody go. It's who can you get to replace him. So if they don't feel like whoever they can get is going to be an upgrade, I think they would roll it back or run it back with Carson Wentz and try to get him better. Listen, 210 yards per game is not good enough. Not for a first and third round pick who's at whatever year in the league he is and has had the performances. Like, you got to have more. And I think there's part of that he didn't meet expectations. The numbers themselves are good, but in the most important games, Tennessee Titans didn't play well at the end, right? So there's so many things that that go against what Wentz was trying to do. And so I would say I think he's done, but it also is predicated on, I think they're watching the Aaron Rodgers news, because that's going to be the domino that lets all the others fall, so they can find out where they really are in the sweepstakes of QB.
That was ESPN's Jeff Saturday saying, hey, the Colts are ready to move on from Carson Wentz. They traded a first and a third for him, but they obviously know that he's not their guy. Frank Reich came into the season saying Carson Wentz is the guy. And Indy, they've just been recycling quarterbacks like candy, trying to get back to those Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning days. But Indianapolis had opened to moving on from Carson Wentz. And I think that could be either a good thing or a bad thing for Titans fans. And you can look at a few different options that the Colts are sitting at. You can pick up a free agent quarterback. They can pick up a quarterback in the draft. They can stick with Carson Wentz. Now, in my opinion, any of those 3 options, now there are more options that we can get into later on, but any of those 3 options don't necessarily terrify me if you're a Titans fan. You can look at the free agent quarterback market. You got Teddy Bridgewater. You've got Ryan Fitzpatrick. The free agent quarterback market where it stands right now, there's no one on the market that you would really kind of shake in your boots for, that you would say, oh, no, I really don't want my divisional rival to pick up that quarterback. The Colts could choose to draft a quarterback and say, okay, we're going to move on from Carson Wentz and we're going to draft someone in this draft. Now, if they really are so committed to moving on from Carson Wentz, they could pick up a rookie quarterback and start him next year. Now, that's a scenario that doesn't scare me. Or they can draft a quarterback start Carson Wentz, develop that quarterback. And so that might make you a little bit nervous because who's saying the Colts couldn't draft the next big thing? But even still, Carson Wentz would be the starting quarterback for the next couple of years and still that until that drafted quarterback is groomed and ready to start. But if we're going to talk about a Titans window, which is likely, I mean, I think it's fair to say a year to 3 years, maybe, fairly, then you're still working with Carson Wentz as an interdivisional rival. Or if they decide to start the rookie quarterback right away, then your division rival is starting a rookie quarterback. And that still keeps the Titans window open and still, in my opinion, makes the Titans the best shot to win the AFC South. So if you look at these three options, Mark, if you are Frank Reich in Indianapolis, what do you do with Carson Wentz? Where do you go from here?
Well, listen, Malik Willis from Liberty might be a guy that they're looking at from their draft position. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think realistically is going to go to the Colts. I just don't think he will. I could be completely wrong, as I have been so often. But I don't see that. I think they're going to go with Wentz for another year. I think Frank Reich feels like he can put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I really thought that Reich, and there was a while there where Wentz was playing pretty effectively. But, boy, you saw the worst of Wentz the last few games when the Colts totally imploded. I think they're going to give Wentz another year, and then they're going to move on. I think that you've got to be the cooler head, and you can't overreact if you're an executive. I think, listen, if I'm Jim Irsay, he's got pretty close to a championship defense. He's got
one of the best running
backs.
One of
the two best running backs in the game. He's got a decent receiving core. They're a quarterback short. And you can say whatever you want about Tannehill. I'd much prefer over Wentz. But right now, they've got a big decision to make. And how much does the team have confidence in Wentz? I don't know. But I think they're going to give him another year.
And I mean, Irsay has already expressed frustration with Carson Wentz, not just with his play on the field, but, not willing to get the COVID vaccine. And however you feel about the vaccine, it's not a political thing. It's just in terms of the league that automatically puts your team at a disadvantage, whether you like it or not. So Jim Irsay has already expressed a lot of frustration in Carson Wentz. I mean, it depends on what they look at it as. Are they developing their team for the future? Are they looking, do the Colts think that they have a Super Bowl window right now? Do they think that they are just an elite quarterback away from the Super Bowl? It depends on how they look at their team. I think they very well could be. And you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned Russell Wilson. Anything is on the table for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. They could stay in Green Bay and Seattle respectively.
Yeah.
Or they could be out in the market. And honestly, if I'm a quarterback, if I'm Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, I mean, Indianapolis honestly does seem like a pretty attractive landing spot.
Well, Jim Irsay also knows that there is a window of opportunity. The Titans are good, but they're not unbeatable. Jacksonville, although they have perhaps a franchise quarterback, still building. It's going to take a few years for Doug Peterson, who Frank Reich obviously knows really well from their days together in Philadelphia. But it's going to take a few years, even if Jacksonville does it right. And then, of course, the Texans, and who knows what's going on down there with Deshaun Watson. Where's he going to go? Who's he going to play for? I just have no idea, what direction that's going to go. And that, to me, will ultimately determine, what they're going to do. You'll know because of what the Texans will do in the draft this year. Are they going to draft their next quarterback? We'll have to find out. Do they think Watson will come back? Because that they have refused to trade him, and I got to believe the teams were reluctant to pay 3 first-round picks for a guy who didn't play all last year And who knows what's going to happen in this coming season.
That's another wild card there is Deshaun Watson. But, I mean, I have to believe that there's not going to be a team that makes a move on Deshaun Watson until they know, hey, will this guy be in prison or not? And you're not going to invest a ton of picks and do a quarterback whose future is so up in the air. But Aaron Rodgers is a question mark. Russell Wilson is a question mark. And you've seen from Indianapolis, you've also seen from Denver, that those are two teams that are willing to go for it at quarterback. I mean, you've seen Denver recycle quarterbacks like crazy because they want to find their next guy. Drafting Drew Lock, that didn't work out. Bringing in Teddy Bridgewater, who is now a free agent, who, the Broncos are most likely not going to hold on to. You see them hiring the offensive coordinator from Green Bay, basically saying, hi, Aaron, just a heads up. We like you, so we're going to hire your offensive coordinator. And I think those are all factors in what Indianapolis's next moves are. Where does Aaron Rodgers end up? Does he retire? Does he stay in Green Bay? Does he want to go on the market? Russell Wilson, does he stay in Seattle? Where does he want to go? He probably won't get sent to another NFC team. So what AFC teams are in the market? Do the Colts fall in love with a quarterback in the draft and are willing to trade up to get that guy? Do they love Kenny Pickett? Do they love Malik Willis? I think the uncertainty at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts could be either a huge advantage or a huge disadvantage for the Tennessee Titans.
I have no idea why Aaron Rodgers would want to leave Green Bay.
I mean, it's beautiful this time of year.
Well, not just that.
I'm kidding.
But who doesn't want to play in Green Bay? Yeah, I know the weather is not, beautiful.
I think it's all political. Aaron Rodgers saw that they drafted his backup and said,
get over it.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers' ego is bigger than life, and you know it. And you know that he would let his ego get in the way of a good thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has wanted to leave Green Bay ever since they drafted Jordan Love. I mean, I'm not counting out that he could absolutely stay in Green Bay, but I'm also not counting out that he could retire or go on to another team. But we mentioned with the Indianapolis Colts, there are 3 options that we listed out. Sign a free agent quarterback if you're really wanting to get rid of Carson Wentz that badly.
But there is no free.
Who are they
going to get? Jameis Winston?
No. You can draft a quarterback in the draft. Either develop him or start him now. Or you can stick with Carson Wentz and hope that there's another free agent that lands in your lap or another quarterback that they find in the draft that they fall in love with. But is there another option that we haven't explored yet? We will get into that coming up next. You're listening to Stillman and Company. You are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game. And also, you can join 102.5 The Game Friday night for the Preds Bud Light Watch Party at Headquarters Beercade. Drink specials, enter to win Preds tickets, and watch the Preds take on the Carolina Hurricanes. It's the Preds Bud Light Watch Party at Headquarters Beercade, located at 114 2nd Avenue South downtown. Puck drops at 6 p.m. this Friday night.
Jump in the mind of an NHL veteran as Predators analyst Hal Gill joins Stillman and Company Tuesday afternoons at 5:30.
Here they are in a pressure situation every night because they need 2 points.
And Robbie and Rexroad Thursday mornings at 9:30.
Goaltending, I think it might be an issue at some point.
Presented by Duncan on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
An effective defense often hinges on sophisticated strategies relating to income tax projections, business valuations, spousal support claims. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
Care has the power to bring kindness where it's needed. It brings out the best in every one of us. It doesn't just see people, it takes time to understand them. It puts the needs of others ahead of its own. And when you start with care, you end up with a very different kind of bank. Truist. Truist Bank, member FDIC.
Third Eye Blind, live in concert. Summer God's Tour 2022 with Taking Back Sunday and special guest Hockey Dad. First Bank Amphitheatre, July 27th. 3 bands, 1 incredible night. Get tickets this Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. Part of the Farm Bureau Insurance Concert Series.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about the folks at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is just around the corner, and if your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Early Spring Special in the month of February. Save up to $1,000 for Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York-certified comfort expert company.
President's Day is here, and that means huge savings at Electronic Express. You'll find great deals in every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops, tablets, speakers, headphones, mattresses, and more. Don't forget, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs, in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop the President's Day sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Every Wednesday, it's me, Jared Stillman, against Joe Rexroad for Jared versus Joe. Brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Visit ParmanTractor.com, your Middle Tennessee link belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Hey, Nashville, this is Rick Stockstill, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Louis Riddick. And he said, hey, listen, everybody's watching the Rams because if the Rams win, then it justifies the move.
Yes, it
and
does.
other GMs are thinking, okay, if we can get this quarterback, we got a good team around him. We got 2 to 3 years to win a championship. If we do it the first year, great. If we do it the second year, even better. As long as we win a championship within those first 3 years. Everybody looked at the Rams and they said it can be done. And I guarantee you Indianapolis is saying, let's do whatever we need to do to get the quarterback we want. I think it's going to be harder to get Rodgers. I think it'd be much harder to get Rodgers. Yeah. I think it'd be a little bit easier to get Wilson. If we can give up 2 first-round draft picks, a conditional second or third, Wentz, and taking on his contract, and we take on Wilson's contract, I think that's a doable deal. Because, again, they're not going to say the things that they've said, management, if they're not just done with it. And they have pinpointed a few guys they want. And they're going to do whatever. Irsay's going to, we already know, Irsay's going to do whatever he needs to do.
That was D. Mace on Darren Donick and Chase earlier today. We're outlining what does the future of the quarterback position look like in Indianapolis, which would then affect the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South race. And we said, if they want to move on from Carson Wentz, which is something that we have heard from Jeff Saturday, which I feel like is a pretty good representative of the Indianapolis Colts. It's something that has been implied by Chris Ballard and Frank Reich that they would like to move on from Carson Wentz. We said they can sign a free agent quarterback, they can draft a quarterback, or they can stick with Carson Wentz. But D. Mace brings up a very valid point because we've talked a lot over the past couple of weeks that did the Rams create a model of going for it? Did they show that, hey, you can dish out the picks and the money, and you can break one of the largest contracts for any NFL quarterback of all time and move on from that quarterback if you don't think that they're the future of your franchise? And the Rams win a Super Bowl. Is that the blueprint for going for it? We said that should be the Titans' road for their next quarterback. That the Titans should look at that and say, hey, you got to be bold to get rewarded for it. Fortune favors the bold. Now we've learned that the Titans are choosing to stick with Ryan Tannehill for the time being. But D. Mace offers up a very valid point that if the Indianapolis Colts want to move on from Carson Wentz, that their options aren't just free agent, draft, or sticking with Carson Wentz. They can also go for it. Now, the Indianapolis Colts don't have a first-round pick in this year's draft. But, like we mentioned, Aaron Rodgers could be on the block. Russell Wilson could be on the block. Could the Colts want to go for it? Now, The Athletic a great article about some of the bold moves that could happen in 2022, bold predictions for 2022. One that's listed is that the Las Vegas Raiders trade Derek Carr to the Colts. I think that would scare me. If I am a Titans fan, Derek Carr with the Colts would scare me. Now, Derek Carr has just 1 year left on his current deal, $19.8 million, which is a bargain for a starting quarterback in the league if you look at what Tannehill is making.
You've got a new coach in Vegas who says he likes Carr. Who are you going to trade him for? Are the Raiders just going to start all over? Possibly. I think that's a more plausible possibility than Russell Wilson going to the Colts, because I just don't think the Colts have the draft capital to get Russell Wilson unless Seattle, wants to roll the dice. And see, understand this too. They trade Russell Wilson to the Colts. That first-round pick, or those first-round picks they might be getting are really late in the first round.
Yeah.
It's not like the NBA where, this
isn't a lottery.
Yeah, you're not going to get, a protected pick or, a top 10 pick. But, I could see Vegas trading Carr. That wouldn't shock me. I think, first of all, for Seattle, they don't really have a plausible successor to Russell Wilson. That's the other part.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have to draft him. And I think the draft will tell us a lot. But, I think they try to keep Wilson there as long as they can. I mean, this is a guy who's durable. And I think Russell Wilson is as close to a Hall of Fame quarterback as you're going to find. I mean, this is a guy who has great fourth quarter stats. Again, I always tell you, there's got to be context. And if you break Russell Wilson down, as opposed to, say, a Matt Stafford, Wilson is terrific in the fourth quarter, better than Stafford is. And that's a guy that if you put a good team around him, he'll win championships as he's demonstrated. I mean, think about the championships, the two Super Bowl teams that he had in Seattle. He had Marshawn Lynch, who was terrific. He didn't have a very good offensive line. Mm-hmm. He had a team that was basically, defensive oriented. The offense wasn't horrible, but there was a sort of a schism there, if you remember, between the guys on defense and the guys on offense. Guys on defense would always disrespect Russell Wilson. But with all that being said, I think Derek Carr seems a lot more plausible. Yeah.
Yeah, and this article, they list for some of the bold predictions that Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay and Russell Wilson stays in Seattle, which I think are all, plausible things that very much so could happen. But this article also, and these are all bold predictions, they're things that could happen, maybe not, maybe they could, but this article also has Matt Ryan moving on, Kirk Cousins moving on, and Jimmy Garoppolo moving on. Now, the Jimmy G and the 49ers divorce seems almost inevitable. But I think I'm almost more scared of a Derek Carr in Indianapolis than I am Jimmy G. To me, Jimmy G going into Indianapolis is basically just doing the same thing that they've been doing. Jimmy G, of course, a step up from Carson Wentz, but I don't think that it's anything, monumental that Indianapolis would be doing. I wouldn't consider getting Jimmy Garoppolo going for it. If the Indianapolis Colts, if you want to say they are going for it, I mean, that's an Aaron Rodgers-sized trade. That's a Russell Wilson-sized acquisition. Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, while I do think Derek Carr could be incredibly dangerous in Indianapolis with this offense and the way that this defense is constructed, it could be a scary team. But I don't think that is necessarily going for it.
Yeah, I sort of think Aaron Rodgers is sort of trying to save face in this whole thing with Green Bay because he was so adamant he was going to be gone after a year. And now he sees the way things were put together. It just always cracks me up with these guys, how players want to be general managers. And they want to be general managers for the benefit of them. And for Aaron Rodgers, the Packers didn't draft enough offensive players. Well, the guys on defense have something to do with why they're so good. that they traded. The guys at other positions have actually contributed. And I think that a little more perspective, you look at this year, Caroline, and you've got 5 or 6 teams in the AFC that are all standing there watching the Super Bowl going, that could have been us. We were a field goal away. We were a possession away. They're saying that in Kansas City. They're saying that in Buffalo. They're probably even saying it in Foxborough, that we're not that far away from being a Super Bowl team. Now, different teams have different needs, but I don't know if the Stafford thing really gives you a roadmap because teams have gone for it before, and it hasn't necessarily worked. I could take you through, the history of the NFL. One year, the artist formerly known as the Washington Redskins got all these future Hall of Famers, got Deion Sanders, got Bruce Smith. Didn't work. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes names don't necessarily work out, and I think that is a lesson that the Tennessee Titans have learned the hard way in their Julio Jones acquisition. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will get to your thoughts, your calls, your texts. What do you think about Derek Carr potentially ending up in Indianapolis? Kirk Cousins? You look at Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo. What is the scariest scenario as a Titans fan for who could end up at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts? We'll get to your thoughts on that as well. I also have a Preds thought. Preds falling to the Washington Capitals at home last night, so we'll get into that game as well. You're listening to Stillman & Company, and we are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red Weather Alert.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. We're cloudy, breezy, and warm this afternoon with highs in the upper 60s. We are Code Red for storms that will move in tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
During our President's Day event, save up to $250 on select Alienware and XPS computers powered by Intel. Call 800-BUY-DELL.
Now through February 16th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, Mr. I can't sleep at night, so I keep dozing off during the day.
Especially you, Snoozy. You'll rest easier and feel fit-tacular.
Wait, how did you get in here?
Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Zero enrollment, $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends February 16th. See club for details.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. I started my first business in the basement of a factory over 30 years ago. We had no heat and no air conditioning. Instead of customers, our office visitors were rats, birds, flies, and snakes. Our office flooded often, and we used blankets as our office walls. We were broke and needed help. That's why I created Patriot Software, to help small business owners with simple payroll for 1 to 100 employees. And if you need help, we will help you for free. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Jason Aldean. When the lights come on. Rock and Roll Cowboy Tour 2022. Presented by Wolf Moon Bourbon. Friday, October 14th, Bridgestone Arena with Gabby Barrett and John Morgan. If I didn't love ACM Artist of the Decade, Jason Aldean. Let's get this thing started. It's my kind of party. Tickets on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com.
Water stains on the shower glass. Try rubbing some shaving cream on them.
Tyler's cleaning crew knows every housekeeping trick in the book.
Handling timesheets now.
But they need a proper bookkeeper to keep finances tidy.
New equipment is a business expense, right?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
One win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Try to pass down to the corner because Netsop gets over there. Backstrom. Now it's bumped back out by Wilson. Here's Ovechkin, the shot, and he scores. Ovechkin gets the power play goal there to put the Capitals up by 3-1 count. For Ovechkin, the 760th goal of his career, 30th of the season.
The Predators dropped their third game in a row last night at home, hosting the Washington Capitals. The Preds have lost 3 in a row now. And I do have to say, the second period last night, the Predators were playing pretty solid hockey. And I think they were just getting in their own way. I mean, pucks were getting off the post left and right. It was ping, 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 ping. Sounded like they were playing ping ball out there. But I do have to ask because, almost wins don't count in sports. And you don't look at the way the game is played. You look at a box score. Preds have lost 3 in a row now. They were on a heater. Philip Forsberg was on a heater. Had a 7-game win streak. And now, they're sitting at 4th place in the Central Division. They had a very comfortable lead above the Dallas Stars. Now they're just 6 points ahead of the Dallas Stars, knocking on the door of the Blues and the Wild, sitting at 3rd and 2nd, respectively. Do you think it's time to put up a red flag for, what's going on with this team? Is it just a funk? Or is this, considerable concern for Preds fans?
Well, I think it's a little bit of regression to the mean. I don't know if they were necessarily a second-place team in the Central Division. I think they were the beneficiaries of a red-hot goaltender, UC Saros, and, Matt Duchene and Johansson, really getting off to great starts. And, Forsberg, as far as, goal scorers. And really, those guys, if those guys don't score, it's hard for the Preds to win. They still haven't gotten a lot of secondary scoring, and that's what it takes. You saw Laviolette, and you remembered that team where the 3rd and 4th lines really contributed to that run to the Stanley Cup final. And if the Preds want a similar run, it's got to be everybody. Cunning's he's got to heat up. He's a guy who's shown a lot of ability. But if Duchene or Forsberg and even Johansson don't score, and I guess you throw Yossi in there, they're probably not going to win. And that it sounds like sort of a duh thing to say, but other guys have to pick up the slack, and that's sort of their problem. I still think they're a scorer away from really being a threat, but I just don't see David Poile making another deal for their cap because of their cap situation and because of what they want to do down the line with Forsberg. But you never know; they might get a rental. We'll see what happens. But they really haven't, had much of a losing streak all season. They played well for a long time. It's just inevitable that you're gonna, go in, to a little skid. I mean. If they lose to Carolina, if they lose Saturday, it's a different deal. But a 3-game losing streak, I'm not going out on the ledge for.
And I asked the question, are you raising the red flag? Are you worried about the Predators? And my answer to that is no, not yet. I mean, you got Carolina coming up and you got Florida coming up. So that's obviously a stretch that doesn't make you feel good about getting back on the horse and getting back into the win column. But a 3-game losing streak, and especially in a game where, the Predators didn't look in the second period, the Predators did not look bad. In fact, they actually looked pretty solid. The puck just wasn't going in. And so that makes me feel confident, even though it was another, tally in the loss column, although it's another loss that's added on to that streak. The Predators looked good in the second period, and I think that makes you feel good about it moving forward. So I'm not willing to raise the red flag just yet. But like I said, Carolina coming up and Florida coming up, I think when it's time to raise that flag, whenever you get a little bit nervous, is whenever you're not seeing consistency from your best players. And I think the Preds have seen consistency from UC Saros this year, and they've been able to count on Philip Forsberg for a little bit of a stretch. They've been able to count on Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson and those guys that you should be able to count on. Your big guys, the guys that you pay the most money, the Roman Yosis. They've been able to count on those guys for stretches. But I think that the difference between the Predators, being in fourth place in the Central Division, and the difference between them and the Colorado Avalanche is the consistency. Is that you don't see the same Predators every game. They can go out and they can beat the Colorado Avalanche and they can look like the best team in the Central Division, and then they can go out and lose a few games and not play their best hockey and not be consistent. So I think that's where the difference between the red flag and not the red flag is. Do you see flashes of good hockey play? Do you see flashes of consistency, or are they consistent? Do you know what to expect game after game?
Well, I believe that John Hines told his team, listen, our metrics were pretty good in the game in terms of their offensive zone time and their puck possession time. And I'm sure he told them, listen, 8 times out of 10 we'll win if we put up those kind of numbers. Not good puck luck tonight. Just keep working hard. Don't worry about the last 3 games. And, this team's been pretty resilient. So I see them bouncing back.
I do think their effort has been pretty good.
Yeah.
They've been playing pretty hard. All the team. I do feel like these last 3 games they've been playing pretty hard. They're just a click off right now. I don't know if it's an extra pass maybe here or there, being a little too cute here and there, trying for the perfect play. I don't know how many they hit the post. I think last night, I want to say 3 or 4 times just in the second period alone.
Yes. And that's the difference right there.
And so
that's the game.
I don't know if they started to press a little bit last night, but each game has its own little frustrating tweaks in each game. Whether the first loss on the streak was the Trennan review situation, that was pretty frustrating. And then last night, just hitting the post when you're so close right there, I think that was getting a little frustrating. So I think they've just been on a little bit of off a click or two, but I think they can get back on. But I do think they're going to need some more depth scoring, because really right now they have maybe 1.5 lines if the Herd line is going, as far as scoring. But with Johansson's line taking kind of a mini step back, they need to put some scoring wingers on with Johansson. And, Cunning's fine. He's been a little underwhelming. But it's time to move Cousins down to the fourth line and either put Tomasino and Tolvanen up there and Cunning down to the fourth line. They need to switch. They need to put Johansson on with some guys who can score. Otherwise, you're just wasting them.
Well, Tolvanen especially, I thought his numbers would pick up a little bit. He's become a more complete player this year, but the puck's not going in for him.
And they've been putting him on the fourth line, so that's not helpful either.
And Tomasino at times doesn't look big enough for the room.
Yeah.
He's going through the usual travails for a rookie, but I thought he'd be better by now, and he's almost taken a little bit of a step back, but we'll have to see.
I do feel for them though, because when those guys make offensive plays and they're on the line, and you make a nice pass, and it's to Michael McCarron, no offense to Michael McCarron, but you're not really going to be able to take advantage of Tomasino and Tolvanen the right way when they are making offensive plays, when they are, when you have a weak link on there.
I don't know if you remember this guy, Ryan Jones, played for the Preds.
Yeah, I do remember him a little bit.
We used to call him the black hole because when he got the puck, the play pretty much ended.
Died. Yeah, right there.
Where plays go to die.
So McCarron has definitely improved this year over last year. I do think that. But part of me does feel like, you got offensive players and Tomasino and Tolvanen, and they're playing on the fourth line. Like, there's only so much you can get done with that for them. So I don't know.
And I think you make a good point. And like each game, each loss has had its each little like their microaggressions. But I think one thing that I've noticed consistently is you mentioned Michael McCarron. He scores last night. A couple minutes later, capital score. It's that the Preds just can't seem to hold on to a lead and can't seem to hold on to momentum. Because as soon as they score, then their opponent responds.
They have been kind of derailed by momentum. They've been starting off the games really well, and it was either the penalty or something that kind of throws them off, and they really weren't able to regain the momentum. So that is a little concerning. You know, kind of spiraled out of control there for a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know. They've been playing good teams, so they're going to play a good team in the first round of the playoffs, no matter who it is. You know, it's going to be close, and Saros is going to have to play well.
We'll go to your phone lines. Phones driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. One texter texts in and says, we 100% need secondary scoring. The team, aside from Johansson, Duchesne, and Forsberg, has been invisible.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I mean...
And that's part of it.
And that's the thing is those are the guys that you're supposed to rely on. Those are the guys that you expect to show up in the box score. But it's the consistency from those guys. It's the consistency from your big guys that I think that the Preds have been missing over the past couple of games, and the games that they have dropped is, whenever you don't see Johansson, Duchesne, and Forsberg, that's when you lose games.
Well, it's funny. When Bonino was here, the third line was pretty good. I mean, it was very productive. And it had they had some good players. Smitty was on there.
I think the Yarncroke Bonino line was some, and Sissons. I want to say it was Bonino, Yarncroke, and Sissons at one point.
Yeah, and sometimes it was Smith.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this third line, the Herd third line is not bad, but you can't really necessarily rely on them for goals every game like you should be able to with your top two lines. So, I don't know. Well, I do think they should I wouldn't hate a top six forward.
Well,
if they really want to try to make a move in the playoffs.
That's what every team wants.
Yeah.
And you're paying airport prices on top of it.
And David Poyle already mentioned, they've kind of set the price tag with the Tyler Toffoli move in Calgary, and it was not cheap.
Right.
So we'll have to see.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into your texts, your calls, your thoughts, everything that's on the table that we've talked about today. We'll get into that. Plus, the ESPN Way Too Early Power Rankings are out. Are they underestimating some of the newer quarterbacks in the league? We will take a look at some of the AFC quarterbacks and some of the potential competition the Titans may have in the conference next year. But before we do that, you got to celebrate Pekka Rinne and his retirement with the Preds Foundation. The Pekka Rinne Retirement Celebration presented by King Jewelers and Grand Hyatt takes place Wednesday, February 23rd at the Grand Hyatt Nashville. The once-in-a-lifetime event gives Smashville the exclusive opportunity to hear stories and memories of Pekka's decorated career. Secure your spot at NashvillePredators.com/Pekka Lunch.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hi guys, did erectile dysfunction disrupt your Valentine's Day this year? Well, today, Wednesday, February 16th, we're doing something unheard of. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy, shown by Cambridge to repair blood vessels and get rid of ED at its core. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction, call us now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also include something unique that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're gonna love that. And today only, we're offering 3 additional treatments to our patients free. This means that if you notice results fading, we'll retreat you free of charge. This is worth hundreds of dollars. Call today, Wednesday, February 16th, and qualify free. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000.
Winter's a bad time for your furnace to go out, but it's never a bad time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
The IRS is ramping up collection, and if you owe back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns, listen carefully. Before it's too late, check your eligibility for the Fresh Start program still offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax problems. Call our special hotline number now and find out in minutes if you qualify for these life-changing debt reduction programs. Business or personal, if you're in a payment plan with no end in sight, have unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to know your options, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief and stop collections immediately. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau with a 5-star rating from Yelp, this veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. Call their hotline number now, 800-819-1120. That's 800-819-1120. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-819-1120 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to score last-minute deals. Right now at theGameNashville.com/deals. Get everything from half off to the Woodhouse Spa, half off dining at the Mainstay and Hard Rock Cafe, also half off to Brooklyn Bowl, plus $50 free with a purchase of $100 in downtown dollars. Check out all these deals while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. That's theGameNashville.com/deals.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company. We are live from the Hillside Medical Game Studio, and you can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Caroline Fenton joined by Mark Howard, filling in for Jared Stillman today. Now, we took a look at ESPN's way too early power rankings, and you have to take all of these with a very large grain of salt because the draft has yet to happen. Free agency signings have yet to happen. There's a quarterback carousel. We don't know what the future of Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, even throw in Tom Brady in there, which we'll get to later on this hour. Throw Kyler Murray in there, who's throwing a little hissy fit on Instagram about the Arizona Cardinals. The uncertainty of a lot of big-name quarterbacks, it has everything up in the air. So all of these are subject to change. But it's interesting to see where ESPN sees these teams lie now. We see the Tennessee Titans sitting at number 8. I think fair, depending on free agency, depending on the draft. But you will also look at a few other teams in the AFC. You have the Los Angeles Chargers sitting at 11. You have the Raiders at 15. You have the Dolphins at 17. You have the Jags in dead last. And a big part of our conversation over the past few weeks is the AFC now becoming the AFC of late, of when it was Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning's conference. Now, is the AFC now slowly becoming Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow's conference? And I think that you very much so can make that argument. You see the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals sitting up very high, both in the top 5, top 10, in the way too early power rankings. But I do wonder, are we or the ESPN way too early power rankings, underestimating some of these young quarterbacks. The Chargers sitting at 11. You have the Jags sitting at dead last. And I know that there are so many issues happening in Jacksonville. And I know they have a new head coach. But I'm not counting out the fact that Doug Peterson could absolutely develop Trevor Lawrence. And I know that Trevor Lawrence is a very good quarterback. How does his game translate to the league? We have yet to see because, it's not like Urban Meyer did anything for Trevor Lawrence. But are we underestimating these second-year quarterbacks, third-year quarterbacks? And could it not just become Joe and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen's conference, but could it be run by some of these younger quarterbacks?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, with the Chargers, they've got Justin Herbert, and they've got a ton of cap space. And, they were, you think about that Raiders game, they were pretty close to getting into the playoffs.
It was a bad decision away from getting into the playoffs.
Exactly.
From Brandon Staley, their head coach.
Brandon Staley doesn't overthink it. I think they're all right. And then you forgot Mac Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones in there as well. And I think that Mac Jones is in a pretty good spot, with Bill Belichick at the helm. But he very much so can take an even bigger step forward in his second year. Trevor Lawrence, you look at Justin Fields. Chicago, a little bit of a dumpster fire at the moment. But I'm not counting out the fact that Justin Fields could be, could bring this franchise forward. Trey Lance. Haven't seen very much from him, was pretty underwhelming in his first year. But are the 49ers going to entrust Trey Lance with their future? Could he take a huge step forward in this Kyle Shanahan offense? I'm not counting any of it out. And I understand the 49ers are not in the Titans conference, but these are still some young quarterbacks that could absolutely run the NFL and the AFC.
No doubt. You look around, I mentioned the Chargers. I think it's a great marriage between Lawrence and Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. I think he'll get coached the way that he wants. Doug Peterson is kind of the quarterback whisperer. I mean, there was a reason why they hired him. That just seems like the kind of coach that Trevor Lawrence needs right now. He was disenchanted with the way Urban Meyer had him coached. And that's not exactly a kid who's a head case. So So, but that's what makes it exciting. And they'll always tell you, Caroline, it's different every year. Injuries, all that. Josh Allen, I thought, was spectacular by the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
As a run-pass threat, he was really, just fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, that's great that the AFC is going to be full of so many good quarterbacks.
Is that a good
thing? Who are
thing?
younger. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the league loves it. It sells merch. These guys are personable. Joe Burrow, I mean, good grief. Everybody wants to be Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is a classic example of why players should never really worry about what franchise they're headed to. I mean, there's all this consternation. I'm in a small market. That's going to inhibit my ability, to make extra dollars. It doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to be in L.A. Yeah, great that Jared Ramsey, that Ramsey was in Jackass, by the way. Saw that movie with my son.
I did see that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, terrible movie,
but he was in there. Got the IMDb credit and everything. But anyway, yeah, Jalen Ramsey, got the bit part in the movie. But Joe Burrow, I mean, how much money off the field is that guy going to make with those looks and just the whole way he carries himself, the Joe Cool thing? He's going to do just fine in Cincinnati. So that's the league loves that because that means everybody doesn't want to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody doesn't want to go to New York or Los Angeles. So that's what they love about the league, that everybody has their run. The drama of who's the next quarterback of the Steelers. A lot of people think they're going to trade up and get Malik Willis from Liberty. We'll see. What you talking about, Willis? Anyway, I know you got to be of a certain age to get that one.
I got that one.
All right.
I got that one.
Anyway.
But I do wonder from the Titans' perspective. I mean, you say Joe Burrow, and he's second year bringing his team to the Super Bowl. And I do think that Joe Burrow is a rare kind of breed because he's just the type of quarterback that can elevate his team like no other. But Trevor Lawrence very much so can be that as well. Is Trevor Lawrence the next quarterback to have his breakout year and be the one that can support and bring his team to a lot of success?
If I am one team, I'll tell you who should go for Aaron Rodgers and just whatever it takes in terms of draft picks and everything else. The Browns. The Browns have great talent at every position. What they don't have is consistency at quarterback. Baker Mayfield does a mean commercial. But could you imagine Aaron Rodgers in Cleveland? That's another town. It's a great traditional NFL town, terrific sports town, a fan base that's very similar to Green Bay. They got the dog pound and all that. That would be a team. And you think about a trade. Baker, they could trade Baker Mayfield to the Packers. Matt LaFleur, if he knew he was losing Aaron Rodgers, might look at Baker Mayfield and goes, you know what? I can fix him enough that he can win for us. Yeah.
And you mentioned, another interesting caveat here in the quarterback carousel, which it has been wild with the quarterback and coaching carousels, is Pittsburgh. What is Pittsburgh going to want to do? Mike Tomlin has expressed a lot of interest in Malik Willis. He said that he wants to have a run-first quarterback, which if you want that, then I think Malik Willis in this draft is as good as any. But in that Athletic article that listed out some of the, the boldest predictions for the 2022 season, there's a name that they listed for the Pittsburgh Steelers that could fill that spot, and it was Marcus Mariota. Now, here's Joe Rexrode will join us at 5 o'clock, but here's what Joe Rexrode said about Marcus Mariota potentially filling into a starting role for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think that's probably best case, which is, okay, you're the caretaker starter, right? I think that's probably where it could happen for him is we got a young guy. We don't necessarily want to throw the young guy in for now, and look, if you're Marcus Mariota, you have to understand you may be the starter for 2-3 games. Yeah. But I think that something like that could happen if the right thing worked out, where it's like a team that wants to draft quarterback wants to start over. In the meantime, might be a pretty good team still, and feels like, okay, Mariota could, for however long it is, probably not the whole season, maybe one season, but probably not. But he could get some W's out there. I love that particular scenario. I'd love to see that for him.
Now, I wasn't here for Marcus's tenure. I was not here when Marcus Mariota was the starting quarterback of the Titans. But I can only imagine if the Steelers do want to go out and draft a quarterback, give him a couple years to develop, let's say it is Malik Willis, is Marcus Mariota really the best option for the Steelers to fill in at starting quarterback? Because everything that I saw of Marcus as the starting quarterback of the Titans in his later years, and everything that I have heard from Titans fans, Titans personnel, is that Marcus just is not a starting caliber quarterback. I can't imagine that that's the avenue that the Steelers want to go down. If you want a rushing quarterback, if you want a mobile quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater's on the quarterback market.
Marcus Mariota is the person you date before you end up with the person you marry.
Before you find the one.
He, on one hand, I think in the right situation, Mariota could maybe be a starter. But the other part of this is, and I don't pretend to be a good friend of Marcus, but the one thing he likes about playing in Vegas is that he's invisible. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy you're going to see at the casinos. He's a clean liver. But he's also a guy that likes his privacy. He's a go straight home guy. In Pittsburgh, you have almost no privacy. If you're the starting quarterback of the Steelers, you're the most important person in town. That's not the case in Vegas. And so if he doesn't play well, those fans are vicious. And I'm not saying, Marcus is going to, get into the fetal position and suck his thumb. But I don't know if he can take that kind of criticism in a market like Pittsburgh. I could be completely wrong, but my other show at that other place, we had Mariota on every week, and Marcus, God, the most controversial thing he told us was that he likes Spam.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
but that's all. And pineapple on his pizza, which
that's
I'll never,
also disgusting.
Which is an outrage.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
not a thing for me. But I mean, I also have to wonder, like, if you've been a quarterback in this league for 7 years now, you won a national championship in college. You're a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. I think you're used to the limelight. I don't know if Marcus, if you can be a quarterback in this league and shy away from an opportunity to start from one of the most storied franchises in the league.
No, I don't know if he's of the mind. I mean, he has said that he's happy in Vegas, which is interesting to me. People said he got rough treatment here. The media here, I don't know how to describe them. It's not a hypercritical media.
Right.
It's a smart media, but it's not a hypercritical one. It's different in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
Talk radio's different in Pittsburgh. You've got a bunch of screamers. You got people who have been in the market forever.
Well, that's a franchise that knows success.
No, I know that.
That's been there before, and a franchise that demands nothing less.
It's a bedrock franchise. There's no question about it. And I'm just saying that I don't know if Marcus would be the guy.
615-737-1025. Jason Fitz from ESPN joins us later this hour, so we will ask him his thoughts on that. But there's also another quarterback, which shockingly we have yet to mention today, that, his future may be up in the air as well. We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Stillman and Company. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Thursday at 1 on Darren, Donick, and Chase, we're joined by Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman for the best inside knowledge on the NHL. It's all brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance yours, Rocket Mortgage can help you get there. For home loan solutions that fit your life, Rocket can.
The National Wild Turkey Federation's 46th Annual Convention and Sports Show is February 16th through the 20th at Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center. Celebrate a year of conservation success with the National Wild Turkey Federation members, volunteers, and partners. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from more than 350 companies featured in their exhibit hall. For more info, go to nwtf.org.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you, whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan. They're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because with a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the twos. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Jason Aldean. When the lights come on. Rock and Roll Cowboy Tour 2022. Presented by Wolf Moon Bourbon. Friday, October 14th, Bridgestone Arena with Gabby Barrett and John Morgan. If I didn't love ACM Artist of the Decade, Jason Aldean. Let's get this thing started. It's my kind of party. Tickets on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com.
Elise and Carl needed a small business loan fast to order more equipment for their bakery. Elise suggested OnDeck.com, but instead, Carl called
Lone Falcon!
Wait, no. Look out!
Bad Falcon, healed! Lone Falcon, why?
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. On Deck, the online lender that makes it easy to apply in minutes and, if approved, get your loan as soon as the same day. With lines of credit up to $100,000 and term loans up to $250,000, On Deck lets you choose the loan that's right for your business. As America's largest online small business lender, On Deck has funded over $14 billion to businesses like yours, so you can borrow with confidence and get your loan fast. Go to OnDeck.com. Your loan is on deck. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank, a Utah Chartered Industrial Bank member FDIC. Limited eligibility for same-day funding. OnDeck does not lend in every state. All loans subject to lender approval.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Well, following the Brady retirement saga has given me a few gray hairs. You know, the initial story comes out, Tom Brady Sr. denies it, the team denies it, and then a couple days later, wait, no, just kidding, he actually is retiring. And then Tom Brady comes out on his podcast and says, you know, I'm leaving the door open. Never say never. We don't know what the future holds. I'm happy with my decision, and I'm looking forward to spend time with my family, but, you know, you never know. So it's been really difficult for me to accept the fact that Tom Brady is retiring whenever it has been so up in the air and he has been so non-committal either way. Now, it's interesting because I heard something earlier today. Mike Giardi had made some comments about Tom Brady, and I thought I was going crazy. Am I the only person who thinks that Tom Brady is actually out, that he is 2 feet, that he is 1 foot out and 1 foot in? But this is what Mike Giardi had to say about what makes the most sense for Tom Brady's future.
Let's reel it back into Tom Brady. And it was very interesting, his buddy there, Scratchy, Jim Gray. I didn't hear the follow-up question till last week where he said never say never, because Scratchy's a good journalist, or at least he used to be, right? Wouldn't he ask that question? Hey, you said never say never. What did that mean? No, the question was framed in a different manner, allowing Brady to hit us with a word salad that didn't say, I'm done playing football. I've talked to a couple people who were with Brady in Foxborough, know him very well, and they said, I don't believe for a second that he's done. I think the way things got handled a couple Saturdays ago with the retirement sort of leaked out early. He shamed the media. Then the next day he retires, and it was very clunkily done, that a lot of people feel like he was almost forced in that direction and doesn't want to go in that direction just yet. I think the other thing, in talking to some people that know him very well, the situation in Tampa. They ran it back last year. They didn't win a title. Now there's some cap concerns. Can they bring everybody back? It doesn't seem that's going to be the case. Maybe, just maybe, Tom Brady is looking elsewhere and saying, I can't win a title here, but maybe I can win one elsewhere. And I think that's something to follow here during the course of the offseason because, again, he did not close the door on play.
Okay, there's a few interesting caveats to this. First and foremost, mentioning people that he's very close with at Foxborough, saying, I don't believe for a minute that he's done. You know, I don't think that anyone in Tom Brady's camp would be saying that if they weren't for sure. Second thing, Mike Giardi says the word forced out a couple times. Did Tom Brady feel like he was forced to retire? Did he feel like he was forced out of Tampa Bay, like he didn't have another option? And I agree with him. The whole retirement thing felt very clunky. It felt like this isn't how the best quarterback in the history of the NFL is supposed to go out. It all felt very strangely orchestrated. Was Tom Brady forced out of Tampa Bay? Did he feel like he didn't have another option?
Well, a couple of things. The way media works now, it's impossible to keep a secret. Even if you think 2 people know, 20 people know. They just do. So there's no keeping a secret. Second, yeah, you know, he's going to keep his options open. But I don't believe for a second he was forced out with Tampa Bay. I think they did the math and said, listen, we can only afford to pay you this, you know, because our cap situation is where it is. And I think Brady, from his years in New England, got tired of taking, below market. Now, that might change if he goes to a team of his choosing. But the other thing with him is, and like I said, I don't know what his regimen is, day in and day out. But I do know this. If you watch his thing on ESPN Plus, and it was phenomenal. If you have ESPN Plus,
Man in the Arena.
Man in the Arena.
It was great.
the way that he trains is not the kind of thing where he's just going to roll out of bed and play quarterback for somebody. But he's going to be 45, 46 years old by the time the season starts. So if this happens, I think it's got to happen reasonably quick. And, I'm not going to sit here and say no because, if Brady left it open, okay, it's open. But, there are certain teams like the Colts that would be looking for a guy like Brady, that for a year, Brady wouldn't cost him a thing. I don't think Tampa would demand compensation. Maybe they would, but I don't think it'd be anything, anything that would be huge. But, the Colts conceivably could bring Brady in, draft the next quarterback. But how did they get rid of Wentz's contract? That's the other thing. And that's the Titans' problem with Tannehill.
Well, if the Colts are going to go all in and they've made it sound like they would do, and they want to move on from Carson Wentz, then they're willing to do whatever it takes to get out of that contract.
Yeah, but you can't just drive by, in Philadelphia and leave Carson Wentz, back on the, on the front steps of.
Yeah, we don't want him anymore.
Yeah, exactly. The Eagles' offices and say, yeah, you got him now. There are cap considerations. There are all kinds of things. So that's what makes the NFL offseason so interesting. The fact that there aren't guaranteed contracts and you can cut a player or sign a player, I don't want to say easily, but easier than some of the other sports.
And I don't know if it was necessarily, the Bucs said, you got to take a pay cut. We can't pay you as much money because we need to save cap space. I think it was more so Tom Brady looked at it and said, I can't win here anymore.
Yeah, the band.
I don't have any of my weapons anymore. The band's not together anymore. I mean, Brady has 1 year left on his deal. He could be released by the Buccaneers after June 1st to save some cap space for 2022. They could also put him on the reserve retired list to save up some cap space. But I think Tom Brady looked at it like, look, I'm old. I want to win a championship. And I cannot win a championship the way that Tampa Bay is currently constructed. I came in here, and that's exactly what I came to do, is win a Super Bowl, and that's what I did. I mean, I have no doubt that he would want to come back and play for another team that is fully equipped to win the Super Bowl right now. I just wonder, are the Bucs willing to deal him to another team, in the NFC?
He won a championship for him. If he goes in and says, listen.
But I don't think the Bucs are going to say, yeah, go ahead, Tom, greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I think
we'll sell you to the streets, and then hopefully we won't see you in the Super Bowl.
I think they would. He could go to New Orleans. That would be an interesting place.
But are the Bucs going to trade him?
They probably won't trade him with
division rival.
Yeah, I don't think he'd go. I don't think they'd let him go to New Orleans. But if he was going to go to Indy, I think they'd be okay with that.
As a Saints fan, I would fully endorse that. But
how are you a Saints fan?
I used to live in Louisiana.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you lived in St. Louis too.
Well, we don't have a team anymore.
You broke up with the Rams.
It was a nasty breakup.
Yeah.
We've blocked each other on social media. But I don't know what the Bucs would want to do on their end, because I think the Bucs have expressed no. I mean, he's either going to retire or he's our quarterback.
The Bucs at this point, I think, are ready to move on.
How can you be ready to move on from Tom Brady?
Because I think from a cap situation, at some point, you got to turn the page.
At some point, something has got to give. But, I mean, if I'm the Bucs, I want to hold on to Tom Brady. It's like the Packers. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there, but the Packers are going to hold on to him whether he likes it or not. But Tom Brady doesn't think that he can win in Tampa Bay, so he's saying, look, I'll retire for now, and I want to go to another team where I can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I just fear that team could potentially be in the AFC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think he wants to go back to Tampa Bay, and I sure as heck don't think he wants to go back to New England. So
no, he's not.
No. Could that be Indianapolis? That's a pretty scary reality moving forward with Tom Brady. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. ESPN's Jason Fitz will join us coming up next. We'll ask him about Tom Brady, about the state of the quarterback carousel. What is the best move for Titans fans filling that role at quarterback in Indianapolis. We'll get into that coming up next with Jason Fitz. You're listening to Stillman and Company, and we are live on ESPN 1025 The Game. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry.
Hey, this is Phil with Forsberg. And this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the hat.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Hi guys, did erectile dysfunction disrupt your Valentine's Day this year? Well, today, Wednesday, February 16th, we're doing something unheard of. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy, shown by Cambridge to repair blood vessels and get rid of ED at its core. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction, call us now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also include something unique that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. And today only, we're offering 3 additional treatments to our patients free. This means that if you notice results fading, we'll retreat you free of charge. This is worth hundreds of dollars. Call today, Wednesday, February 16th, and qualify free. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000.
The IRS is ramping up collection, and if you owe back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns, listen carefully. Before it's too late, check your eligibility for the Fresh Start program still offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax problems. Call our special hotline number now and find out in minutes if you qualify for these life-changing debt reduction programs. Business or personal, if you're in a payment plan with no end in sight, have unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to know your options, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief and stop collections immediately. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau with a 5-star rating from Yelp, this veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. Call their hotline number now, 800-819-1120. That's 800-819-1120. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-819-1120 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
President's Day is here, and that means huge savings at Electronic Express. You'll find great deals in every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops, tablets, speakers, headphones, mattresses, and more. Don't forget, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs, in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop the President's Day sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Thursday night. No good by Sims. Cleaned up, though, underneath by Buffer. The Blue Raiders of MTSU hit the road to take on FIU. Coverage begins at 5:30
on ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Jason Fitz joins us now. Jason Fitz brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. Fitzy, we started the show today talking about the Hall of Fame, how it was kind of unfair. Like, it feels like all of the conversation following the Super Bowl has almost been negative surrounding the winning team's quarterback, saying, you know, does Matthew Stafford belong in the Hall of Fame? Does Matthew Stafford not? Was he just one Super Bowl away from the Hall of Fame? And we kind of compared it to Derrick Henry. Is Derrick Henry just a Super Bowl away from the Hall of Fame? Your thoughts? Does Matthew Stafford deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame? And if it was Derrick Henry that was hoisting the Lombardi on Sunday, would he have paved his way into the Hall of Fame?
That's a really interesting question, and I think the answer is yes. Partially,
really,
when it comes to for Derrick Henry, not for Matt Stafford. For Derrick Henry, I think because there's a perceived liability at the quarterback position, it only gives you more street cred for what you would accomplish in that situation. I think Derrick Henry's already a fringe Hall of Famer, even if nothing else happens. So I'm a believer that what we've seen is historic, and this analogy for Henry that I've been using for Stafford every time somebody asks me if he's a Hall of Famer. Like, I think of the world like the schedule game, right? We all know when the NFL releases their schedule, what do Titans fans do? They open it up and they immediately say, oh, we got to play this guy, we got to play that guy. And for years it'd be like, oh, man, we got the Colts this year. It's so tough to beat Peyton Manning. Oh, man, we got the Patriots this year. That means we got to take on Brady. Nobody in the history of his career has ever looked at Matt Stafford and said, oh, man, but we got to take on Stafford. Now, part of that's because the Lions were trash, and I get that. But also we have to look at the Rams as an organization and say, what did they do? They played football like it was Madden this year, and they won a Super Bowl. Like, I think you can be like Matt Stafford is a bigger testimony to all of us that are fans of teams that have an okay quarterback, that like even a very good quarterback that's not quite the epic level. Like, that's who Matt Stafford is to me. He's a very good quarterback. He might even be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. But when I think of Hall of Fame, I think of that guy, you say, oh, my God. And I'm telling you right now, if I look at the schedule and I see that the Raiders are playing the Rams, my first thought is like, oh, you got to take on Aaron Donald, and oh, you got to take on Sean McVay. Nobody's sitting there saying you got to take on Stafford. But, my God, when you see the Titans on the schedule, you immediately think, oh, man, December, we're still going to have to take on Derrick Henry? Like, that is a beast. So I think it speaks to the same conversation.
We're talking to Jason Fitz, ESPN host. Fitzy, you're brought up your Raiders. Question about your Raiders, because I read a very interesting article in The Athletic that listed out 10 bold predictions for 2022. And one prediction had Derek Carr going to Indianapolis. One, would you be so gutted to see Derek Carr leaving Vegas? And two, does that make Titans fans shake in their boots a little bit if Derek Carr is the new quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts?
If Derek Carr is the quarterback for the Colts, then I would make them a Super Bowl favorite. I think Derek Carr is every bit the quarterback that Matt Stafford is, and you put him on a team with Jonathan Taylor as running back, and you put him on a team with a really competent defense, I think he has an opportunity there. I don't think Derek Carr is going anywhere. Frankly, I think that a lot of this is blown way out of proportion, and there's no way in my mind that Josh McDaniel decides that he wants to come back and coach in the end and get his second chance as a head coach, likely his last chance as a head coach. And the sales pitch was, we'll just figure out the quarterback position. I just don't think that that's real. So I think the sales pitch was, we're going to sign Derek Carr to a 3 or 4 year extension while we then figure out if he's the guy or if we need to draft somebody. So to me, there's no chance Derek Carr goes somewhere else, because it wouldn't make the Raiders better today. The only way that I'm drafting a quarterback this year is if I know squarely, whether it's Malik Willis or any of the high, sort of guys that we're obsessed with early on, Matt Corral, like any of them. If they don't have to play year one, I think you got a shot at maybe you can find your quarterback. If they have to play year one, I'm not putting any equity in any of them. So I think Derek Carr is back. But if Derek Carr goes to the Colts, I would pick the Colts to win their division and be an AFC favorite.
Speaking of Jason Fitz, of course, of ESPN, and Jason, a year from now, what are we saying, or what will we be saying about the Brian Flores lawsuit?
Oh, that is a great question. I think we'll be, honestly, from all of it, I think that the hiring practices will change, and I think that the Miami Dolphins will be under new ownership. And I think that, Pro Football Talk, I think, is the one that referenced it the other day, that there already is belief in circles that witnesses saw the offer of $100,000 to lose, and that's something that no coach would ever go out and speak of if they ever wanted to work in the league again. And the most powerful thing about Brian Flores is he cares more about change than he does about his own personal trajectory forward. That is powerful, because now somebody isn't handcuffed by the concept of, what if, people don't like me after this? Flores doesn't care. So I think Flores is going to change the Dolphins ownership group entirely, and then the NFL is going to continue to tweak it. The problem is, I don't know there's a real good, viable answer that gets more qualified minority candidates hired. Like, I don't know what else we can ask everybody to do other than continue to take interviews, and then you try and make those interviews real, short of getting ownership, that looks more like the coaches we're talking about. But then what are we going to do? Sit there and suddenly expect that a minority ownership group has to be the ones that turns around and hires an entire minority front office? Like, I also don't think that's a fair thing to put on a new ownership group. So I don't think there's an easy solution to that part of it, but I do think the Dolphins will be for sale sooner than later.
I want to take a little bit of a right turn here because I know when you're on television or the radio, you're talking college football. And does anything epitomize the insanity of the SEC than what's going on at Auburn?
It's gross, right? Like, everything about it makes no sense. And the couple of things here. We constantly talk about the name, image, likeness issue with kids, and there are so many people that are like, players get theirs. And then you think of this coaching buyout situation, like how we have not reached an easier solution on coaching contracts that give teams the opportunity to come and say, hey, you did diversity well. Like, that should be plain and simple and easier to prove. Like, I'm the most upfront about my situation here, but I'll tell you, like, at ESPN, if I do something that they determine damages the brand of ESPN, they can fire me and not pay me another dime. And there are many touring organizations in Nashville for musicians that have the same thing in their contract, that if you're rude to somebody in catering and you misrepresent the artist you work for, you can be fired. So now we have a coach here that all of a sudden I'm looking at just the mass number of transfers, and then you also look at the people that no longer want to work around him. You look at the alleged affair, and you're turning around and saying, this is the person that's supposed to be representing the doorstep to the university? Like, I don't know. All of it just feels so gross, and the lack of transparency from everybody involved. Like, this is a real indication that while college football is ripping everything apart, which already upsets college football fans, why not look at contracts for coaches also and get that taken care of at the same time that we're reworking the sport that we know, because that is a broken process.
Fitzy, I read an article on ESPN.com today that listed out some of the 2022 offseason priorities that the NFL should look at. The Brian Flores lawsuit and kind of resolving all of those issues in the NFL was one of them. But I did see one that caught my eye that said, essentially, look into some of the disparities of NFL officiating. In your opinion, do you think the officials, quote-unquote, ruined the Super Bowl?
No. And I don't think that's a fair assessment at all. I think the NFL, though, is, again, I'll use transparency, right? Like, if the NFL decided, and I'll be very honest, I have suggested this to the NFL, and they told me to go fly kite. But if the NFL really wanted to, they could make all of the information transparent by telling us the scores on every officiating crew. And what I mean by that is, like, when you get your docket for the week and you know as a Titans player who you're playing that week, you also find out about the officials. You know which crews call more holding. You know which crews call more pass interference. Like, that's all tracked, studied, and it's given to teams. Like, why, as fans, we don't get that same information? Frankly, we've come to learn as a fan base what a proper completion percentage is for a quarterback. Like, that's something that we accept. We would also get to know the proper percentages of accuracy within calls if they would start to make those numbers known. So at the beginning of a broadcast, when they show me the crew, show me what their accuracy percentage is, show me what they called too much of, show me what they missed, tell me what kind of a crew we're getting. And I think that would be a huge, huge help. But the other thing that every fan base needs to learn, and I learned this from Jack Del Rio. I sat down with him and talked to him about officiating, and he said, what we don't talk enough about is that bad teams get bad crews. And that's always the way the NFL has done it. Just like bad teams get bad, assignments from the TV networks that carry them and cover them. Well, they also get bad officiating crews. So a lot of times what you're watching is holding goes through the roof for bad football teams, partially because it's a bad team, partially because it's a bad crew. And this is all stuff that the NFL could be really transparent about. I thought the officials overall did a pretty good job in that game, and we forget how many times they get things right. But we only talk about what they get wrong, and because of that, and because we're not given enough context, we have this process in our minds that it's broken. But I don't believe it is. I just think if the NFL really cared, they would give us more information to help us all.
We're talking to ESPN's Jason Fitz, brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. Fitzy, we've heard a lot of drama about Tom Brady's retirement. Is he retiring? Is he not? Is he leaving the door open? Is he happy with his decision? Double-sided question for you. Is Brady coming back? And if so, are the Buccaneers willing to trade him, and where?
So if he comes back, the Bucs will take him in a heartbeat because they don't have a better option. And, everybody I've talked to says that the Bucs are still hoping he changes his mind.
Is will he come back to the Bucs?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine. When you think about Brady's process, right, you've got to look at the way he moved. And when he moved, he wanted basically to bring certain roster people in with him. So if he doesn't make that decision soon, then he's not going to be able to get the roster around that we want. So I'd have a hard time imagining he could just go anywhere and have the same success. It takes time to put those pieces in that offense together with him. But I don't think he's coming back simply because realistically, I make this joke all the time, but it's true for his family. Like, he makes the fun money in that house. Like, Giselle's the breadwinner, and Giselle's the boss of that family. And she's been loud several times about what she wants from the concussions that she came out and said he had that have never been on the injury report. Like, the number of times she's come out and made it clear she's done with him playing, like, I understand he wants to play, but at some point he sits down with her and she says, look, for your family and for your wife, you're not going to play anymore. That's a much different conversation for Tom than anything else. And so as much as he may want to play and he may still have that burn inside, if you're Tom and you're Giselle and you're sitting down as a family, she's saying, look at what the Mannings are doing. They're not putting their body at risk. They're still around the game all the time, and they're making every bit as much money to do that as they would be to take hits and try and win Super Bowls. So, I think that if this were just Tom's decision, maybe he comes back. But it's hard for me to believe that this isn't a family and Giselle decision, and I don't see why she would change her mind.
You're a talented musician, Jason. Did you watch the Brady Man in the Arena? And if you did, how much could you relate to his process?
I watched it. I was lucky enough to get to do an after show on ESPN Plus where we reacted to it. And I say lucky enough because I'll tell you, everybody knows I'm a Raiders fan. I had no interest in doing this. When they first asked me to, I was like, I do not want to sit there and be reminded about the Tuck rule every single. But, the craziest thing, there were a couple of things that really hit me. One is not just Brady's greatness, but the number of times other people in the locker room came up to Brady and said, this is what you need to do, and he listened. And I kept thinking about my own life, and one of the things that, whether I was in music or when I moved to broadcasting, one of the things that really got me where I am is the number of times people said, look, you're coachable. Like, you take feedback. And I kept watching and thinking, there are certain people that are wired to say, what do I need to do to get better? And for Brady to be in his ascension and then talk so many times about, Teddy Bruschi coming up to him and saying, hey, I need you to level out your emotion. And, Willie McGinnis coming up to him and saying, hey, you're partying too much. You're not taking care of your body. And every time he got that feedback from somebody, instead of throwing it away, which is what most of us at our jobs do, no matter what our job is, he sat down and said, well, if somebody I respect is telling me that, then I owe it to them to sit back and say, how could I be better in that area? That is a level of selflessness that I was stunned by, and it speaks to the culture of the Patriots and what they did right. And it really, like, you can look at it and say, whatever your business is, some organizations do it differently. The Patriots did it differently. Brady did it differently, and they all fed off each other because there was so much mutual respect. And I think when I've been in the most successful positions in my life in sports or in music, there's been that same level of, man, I look left and right and realize everybody in this organization is helping me get better. That's what Brady did, and that's what Brady does, and it's why he's just unstoppable at what he does, and that's a difference maker compared to so many other players. Players I know and I'm friends with in the NFL that you could walk up to and try and give the same feedback. They blow it off. Brady took it all, and that's why he was the best.
NFL.com ranked the quarterbacks, and they ranked Russell Wilson pretty low. And one of the things that was written is that he's lost a step, that he didn't look right at the end of the season. How much do you buy that, and where do you think he is in his career?
I think he's, okay, has he lost a step compared to the best of Russ? Maybe. But I also think that's a little unfair because the best of Russ is pretty darn good, right? So when we start talking about has he lost a step, well, that's a little bit, different stratosphere. But Brady wasn't the same Brady at the end, and Manning wasn't the same Manning at the end, all in different ways, right? So the thing for me is that Russ is a very smart quarterback, and Russ is a very smart quarterback that obviously isn't happy. And I do think that being happy charges you differently at a certain point in your career. And I mean, I will go back to my music roots and say, like, at the end of my touring days, I wasn't as happy. And I don't think, because I knew I didn't have the love for it, I think it impacted me. And I know I see a lot of guys when I came into broadcasting that weren't happy every day, and you do a show with them and you think, man, like, you don't have that right energy. And like, sometimes being happy matters to people that have accomplished so much in their lives. I think a change of scenery could really energize Russ. Is he still worth investing in as a quarterback? Heck yes. I would without hesitation. But also I would remind everybody it takes a team that's going to come in, communicate his way, that's going to rework some things on the offensive line his way to make sure that he has proper windows because he is a little bit smaller than a lot of quarterbacks. Like, there are still commitment things that would have to be done, but I think the ultimate thing that we're going to look back on this chapter for the Seahawks in 5 years is say, why didn't they do a better job of keeping him happy? Because it feels like the whole organization has lost their way without that joy between he and Pete Carroll.
Fitzy, keep up the great work and give my love to the digital team up there in Bristol.
Absolutely. It's about time you took over the show. Stillman should just let Stillman stay home. That's it. It's Fenton and Friends. It has a better ring.
Fenton and Friends. I don't mind it at all. Fenton, Fitz, and Friends, perhaps?
Yes.
Let's go. I'm all in
Let's
for that.
do
Triple
it.
F.
All right, Fitzy, appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, you too. ESPN's Jason Fitz joining us on the program. Coming up next, we will get into some of your text. Everything is on the table. Tom Brady, what does his future look like? Julio Jones, what does his future look like with the Tennessee Titans? We'll get into all of your thoughts coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You're listening to Stillman & Company, and we are live on ESPN 1025 The Game.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red Weather Alert.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. Code Red weather does take us into Thursday. Thunderstorms, afternoon into the early evening hours, are likely severe weather possible. As these storms roll in, all types of severe weather cannot be ruled out in our forecast.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Zines First is the official sign company for 1025 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Now through February 16th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, Mr. I can't sleep at night, so I keep dozing off during the day.
Especially you, Snoozy. You'll rest easier and feel fit-tacular.
Wait, how did you get in here?
Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Zero enrollment, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends February 16th. See club for details.
What if I told you there was a breakthrough technology for treating erectile dysfunction that can eliminate ED? This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I'm not going to tell you that. Because despite what some groups claim in their ads, the truth is, there is no such thing. What they're talking about is acoustic wave therapy, and it's been used to treat ED for many years. In fact, we've used it in our practice since 2018. And while wave therapy is useful for some ED cases, it's not a miracle cure. And you could spend a lot of money with those other groups finding that out. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we offer many ED treatments, including wave therapy. We've successfully treated thousands of men with protocols that have success rates as high as 90%, and will find the right treatment for you. You could even have great sex the day after your appointment. So don't be fooled. Call us today and get the right treatment for you. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
Hey everybody, Robbie Stanley here to tell you about my friends at Jasper's as the neighborhood bar and restaurant to catch the next Preds game. Jasper's is located on West End Avenue and offers a fun atmosphere with a game room, TVs, and a large bar and lounge area. Plus they offer free parking. That's right, free parking on West End, and offer specials for every Preds game day, including $10 smash burgers and $3 bottle domestics. So come on down to Jasper's next game day for happy hour every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. and 2-for-1 beers all day on Sundays. Just tell them that Robbie Stanley sent you.
Are you a father that is passionate about your fundamental constitutional right to parent your own child or children? Has your parenting time or your income been affected by COVID? This is Amanda J. Gentry, and I am a fierce defender of your constitutional rights. The courts in Tennessee are under an obligation to maximize equal parenting time. We do not live in an every other weekend world anymore. At the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, fathers are extremely important, much like my own father was. Go to AmandaJGentry.com or call or text 615-604-6263. That's AmandaJGentry.com.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things out.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexroad. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Joe Rexroad, will join us coming up here in a few minutes. We'll pick his brain about all of the big topics surrounding the NFL. No Jared versus Joe today, so a little bit lower drama, lower energy today. But we're happy to have Joe joining us in a couple minutes. We'll go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. But Jeff texts in about the Titans in the draft. Jeff says, I understand taking the best player on the board, but I am tired of finding players that are injured. It worked out with Jeffrey Simmons, but I don't think it's worked out with anybody else. And I want somebody that's going to contribute now, not next year or 2 years from now.
Well, they've really only done that with 2 players. And we'll see what happens with Caleb Farley. I think, I'm not ready to sit here and write him off. Now, I've had this long-standing debate with Chris, and I might have to eat crow in a year or so. But let's wait and see what Farley does. This coming season if he's healthy. Obviously, there's a lot of frustration. They've had a few draft picks inhibited by injury.
Draft picks, free agent signings. It's just frustrating that this past year, and I think a lot of fans look at recency bias, but I think that's fair to say that in the 2021 year, your first-round draft pick was too injured to contribute, and your biggest free agent signing in terms of splashiness was injured half the year. So I think fans are very much so have a right to be frustrated with the fact that the past 2 years, the first-round pick can't contribute. And in your first-round pick, that's a player that should be out on the field game one and ready to contribute right now. And I think the Titans, it's astonishing to see how much success they've been able to have given the injuries and given the first-round busts. But think about how much of a better position they could be in if they had Caleb Farley that is able to contribute at corner. Think about if Isaiah Simmons was able to get out there and contribute on the offensive line. I mean, those are all things that it makes you wonder what, like, all of these other teams, they have first-round picks that are able to contribute right away. Like a Micah Parsons, who's been able to make a splash for Dallas this year. And it's almost like Titans fans can look at it and say, why not us?
No, absolutely. The Titans have managed to overcome drafts where players are not productive in their first seasons, and they've still managed to win. And I'm sure, that's weighed heavily on John Robinson and even Mike Vrabel, because the cost has been the Titans haven't been as deep. They don't have roster depth. At this point, if their drafts had been really good, they could develop the younger players and not worry about going out and spending, for free agents. When a player busts in the first round, like Isaiah Wilson, Titans then had to draft another tackle, and we're still not sure if that's going to work out. And if he doesn't work out, then they're going to have to draft another guy or go into free agency. So the cost of a mistake at the top of the draft can really end up costing a franchise. And we saw it with Dodds, the pass rusher from Clemson, who the Titans drafted, I believe in the second round. Guy had 1 sack. You know who that was? It was Matthew Stafford. But anyway, against the Lions. But that failure as a pass rusher, busting as a second-round pick, the Titans threw a lot of money at that position. Ultimately, if you have too many of those mistakes, it's not going to work out as well. But the Titans have been extremely fortunate that some of those picks have hit and been starters, but still they don't have the roster depth because the drafts have not been as productive.
Coming up next, Joe Rexrode will join us. We'll get his thoughts on that and his thoughts on everything on the table that we have discussed today. No Jared versus Joe today, but I promise it'll be just as entertaining, just maybe a little bit quieter. Joe Rexrode joins us coming up next. You're listening to Stillman & Company. We are on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The voice of reason.
No, you blew it. That's what happened. It didn't slip away. You blew it.
The voice of the fan.
The officials had let that game get out of control before anything got thrown.
The voice of Nashville sports is your home of Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution. And Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
At Cordell & Cordell, we focus on representing men in domestic relations cases.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
We recognize that our clients are going through perhaps the toughest time they will ever go through. We understand that everything that's important to them is on the table. Their assets, the role in their children's lives. That's an immense responsibility that our clients entrust us with, and we take that very seriously. We've been trained to do that. We've helped thousands of clients before. And it's our hope that you'll choose to entrust us with what's most important to you.
The attorneys at Cordell & Cordell work to help men maximize their role in their children's lives. Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
Ready to get spicy? Show off your cooking skills and support Special Olympics too. Bring the heat and give them the big bean reveal at the 2022 Music City Polar Plunge Chili Cook-Off, presented by SPB Hospitality. Saturday, February 19th. Support Special Olympics at polarplungetn.com.
The 2022 SEC Women's Basketball Tournament is back in Nashville as Bridgestone Arena hosts the annual celebration of SEC's Women's Hoops March 2nd through the 6th. Join us and experience the bright lights of the Music City as we crown a champion. Tickets are on sale now, so contact your university ticket office or head to secsports.com. SEC Women's Basketball. It just means more.
Do you want the best for your car? Then fill up with Premium at Circle K. Circle K Premium is our best fuel with double the cleaning detergent, protecting your engine from corrosion and damage so it can work at its best. And that, my friend, increases your mileage for more cha-ching in your pocket. Plus, when you fill up with Premium at Circle K, you can save up to 20 cents per gallon. Offer valid Thursdays or Fridays at participating stores. For details, visit CircleK.com. Circle K. How convenient.
Thinking about making a change? You've put in the years and had success, but ready for something more? Well, good news. Little Guys Movers is looking for folks just like you to own and operate their very own Little Guys Movers franchise. From Broadway to Brentwood to Mount Juliet, if you can hear my voice, there's an affordable, profitable Little Guys franchise opportunity nearby. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Join a team with 30 plus years of growth and good times. Learn more at littleguysfranchise.com and then make that call.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ESPN 1025, The Game is Nashville's official home of NASCAR. Tune in Sunday, February 20th at 1:30 p.m. for the Daytona 500 at the Daytona International Speedway. Also get set for the race with Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 a.m. Stillman & Company, delivered by TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Joe Rexroad joins the show now. And Joe, I owe you an apology because I threw you under the bus earlier on the show and I misrepresented your take on Matthew Stafford. Here I am, thought you were just a Detroit homer Matthew Stafford apologist, yet I was wrong. So, Joe, please correct me on your take. Matthew Stafford, does he or does he not belong in the Hall of Fame after Sunday?
Well, no, it's you don't owe me an apology, Caroline, but I do feel like I think I'm definitely more on the. I think he's got a real shot at it on the spec. Like I feel like Jared and I got into a Twitter fight about this, of course.
Classic.
I feel like Jared is strongly on the side of like forget about it, like on the Richard Sherman side, and I'm not like I'm not on the side of I think he's in. Like I think if he retired today. And after he's pounding some beers in L.A., I'm seeing here on Twitter. Maybe he will decide to. I hope he stays out of the avocado tequila. But if he if he were to retire today, I would guess probably no. But like I think he's now into the discussion when you have a postseason like he had, a season like he had. And look, I mean, I feel like I believe this, having been forced to watch a lot of Lions football, even though I have disavowed them for the record. Long ago.
Forced is a nice way to put it.
Yeah. But I know how good he is. I've always believed that. I'm like, this is their best quarterback ever, and if he was somewhere else, people would think of him differently. He's got a losing record. He plays for the freaking Lions, and I do think that there's been a fair amount of validation for him and for people who kind of thought, like, dude, this guy is really good. I think he's got to stack more seasons after this, and I think have more postseason success, even if it's not winning another ring. More runs, more good seasons, and he's on pace to end up top 5 in yards and touchdowns. And I understand it's a different era statistically. I heard you guys talking, and I agree. But I mean, if you're top 5, that means you're also compared against all these guys from this era too, right? I mean, I think that means something.
And we also made the comparison. I said, okay, am I being too hard on Matthew Stafford if I put the Titans in the same place? Who's another fringe Hall of Famer, and that's Derrick Henry. Do you think Derrick Henry is just a Super Bowl away from the Hall of Fame? I say not quite. Jason Fitz said he's already a fringe Hall of Famer, and the Super Bowl is the only thing that he needs to kind of tip him over into the Canton category.
Yeah, the Derrick Henry, and I heard you guys talking about it earlier, and it's a fascinating discussion, Caroline, and I think I agree with what Mark said. If he were to have like another 2000 where like it's just something no one has ever done, I don't see how he's kept out of there. I think the 10,000 yard milestone is very important, and I think you make a great point about like look, if we're going to put the asterisk next to the big numbers for quarterbacks of this era, then why would we not also put it next to like the other kind of asterisk next to running backs of this era? Because that is not how football's played anymore. As most teams try to have 2 backs and they don't run it nearly this much. So I think as long as he stays healthy and has some more good seasons, I think he's going to have a real shot at it. And it's just like so much how you look at it, right? Because I do think the Super Bowl thing is hugely important, and some people probably prioritize that more than others do. The accumulation of stats is important, but again, Terrell Davis didn't have that. What he had was a very brief period of dominance and 2 rings. I feel like the argument like against Stafford or against Eli Manning, which is have they ever even been like in the top 5 of QBs during their time period? I think that's a fair criticism. But with Derrick Henry, he's working on, how many years here were very arguably the best at his position, and some people would put him in the best, 3, 4, 5 players in the league, period. And so I think that should count toward that too. I mean, I think there's where he differs in a positive way from like Eddie George, So it's a fascinating discussion, and I think with both those guys, it's like they both have work to do.
Speaking of Joe Rexrode, who, of course, shines with The Athletic and, of course, his morning show, Robbie and Rexrode, right here on 102.5 The Game. Joe, what about what Mike Vrabel said about Ryan Tannehill? It really almost sounded like, it's the old line, he was damning him with the faintest of praise.
Yeah. And it's funny, though, Mark, you're right. Like, at the time, I didn't feel that way. That was one of those things where at that press conference, I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good endorsement of him. And then you, read it later, and you're like, gosh, if you actually go pick through these words, it's not exactly I mean, it's way less strong than the stuff that John Robinson has said, what he said down at the Senior Bowl and what he told Jim Wyatt. So I feel like the endorsement for Vrabel was stronger for Todd Downing than it was for Tannehill. And then, of course, they hire Tim Kelly. So that's an interesting situation, too. But, I'd love to know, and I don't think we're ever going to know, exactly what the discussions have been like in that building about, okay, what does this do? What did that game do to how they feel about him? If anything, I can't believe that it didn't do something. But how much did they really discuss, okay, what's realistic here? What could actually be done about this at that position? However it came about, they're stuck with him, or they're thrilled to have him, however you want to spin it, for next year. And I think Vrabel's right. Ultimately, they do have to be great around him. They were better around him in 19 and 20. I think the problem is, you can address receiver, you can address tight end. They have to. You have to figure out a way to be better up front. Won't be easy at all, but what about OC? Like, how much was that a part of why Ryan Tannehill played above his Miami level for those 2 years? It's hard to look at everything and not think that he really suffered from the departure of Arthur Smith last year.
You wrote a really good story, I'd say a month or so ago, about what the Titans might look like in 2022. So I ask you the question: Taylor Lewan, Julio Jones, who comes back? One of them, both of them, or none of the above?
Well, I'm starting, and it's interesting, and to me, I throw Zach Cunningham into that too, Mark, because I feel like they really like Zach Cunningham. How could they not? I think he came in and you immediately saw, like, boy, that's a nice combo. Zach Cunningham and David Long inside, and he's a sudden, violent player in there. He's really good, but he's also an inside linebacker, they're going to have to move on from some people. If I had to rank it, so let's take those three. I would rank it Taylor Lewan, top priority of having back. I just don't see how you're better up front if you move on from your left tackle. Now, if you don't think his best days are past him and that's just way too much money, that's a different discussion. But I feel like the way he improved during the season after the awful start, which is probably predictable given the ACL, I feel like you got a pretty good chance of him being back to being one of the best left tackles, or at least top 10, top 12 left tackle. It's really important. And if you move on from that, I mean, man, how are you going to be better up front when you have to give Tannehill better protection? So I'd go him first, I'd go Julio 2, and I'd go Zach 3. Zach's a better player than Julio at his position, but you're going to have to sacrifice some places. I think Roger Saffold is a slam dunk probably for not being here next year. I think Jackrabbit Jenkins, I don't see how he's here next year. And then there's some really interesting, tough decisions, that we're talking about. And of course, I mean, to me, like you've got to have Harold Landry on this team next year. If you're still in what you believe is this window, I don't see how you still feel that way if Harold Landry isn't on your team next year. And so that's going to cost you.
Joe Redstra joining us for his usual slot for Jared versus Joe, brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. We will see Joe on the other side, continuing the conversation on the Titans' offseason priorities. Before we do that, come out to the 46th Annual National Wild Turkey Federation Convention tomorrow through Sunday at Opryland. And be sure to stop by Friday from 2 to 4, where ESPN 1025 The Game and our own Robbie Stanley will be out on site. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from the hottest outdoor brands on the sports show floor. It's one of the biggest consumer shows in the country, where conservation and hunting's most devoted supporters come together to celebrate healthy habitats and healthy harvests. For more info, visit www.nwtf.org. That is www.nwtf.org.
Join the Nashville Superspeedway and ESPN 1025 The Game for the official NASCAR Daytona 500 watch party this Sunday at 3rd and Home, starting at 1 o'clock. NASCAR fans and sports fans alike are encouraged to come out and join the fun while enjoying a full menu of food and drinks at Third and Home. Those in attendance can take the opportunity to purchase tickets for this summer's NASCAR Tripleheader weekend, and they'll have a chance to win great prizes courtesy of Nashville Superspeedway, Music City's home for NASCAR Cup racing.
Care has the power to bring kindness where it's needed. It brings out the best in every one of us. It doesn't just see people. It takes time to understand them. It puts the needs of others ahead of its own. And when you start with care, you end up with a very different kind of bank. Truist. Truist Bank, member FDIC.
Now through February 16th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, Mr. I can't sleep at night, so I keep dozing off during the day.
Especially you, Snoozy. You'll rest easier and feel fit-tacular.
Wait, how did you get in here?
Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Zero enrollment, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends February 16th. See club for details.
If you snore, it may be a sign of a more serious, possibly life-threatening condition. Most people think of snoring as a nuisance, but it's a much more serious medical condition than you think. Snoring has been associated with chest pain, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, chronic pain, obesity, headaches, and sore throat. Take a listen to what some of our patients are saying about the revolutionary Vivo system.
Right after I started using it, I noticed the results really, especially with the snoring. My sleep apnea episodes are a fraction of what they were before. This product's phenomenal. It changed my life.
I am 100% happy that I did this, and I'm thankful every day that I had it.
If you're curious about our sleep devices, call now for a sleep consultation. Don't let your spouse have to sleep in the guest room, and don't risk the severe health complications of snoring and sleep apnea.
Dr. Kelly Rice is certified to provide the Vivo system to open the airway for a better night's sleep. Call 615-373-4488 or go to BrentwoodSleepApnea.com to see which therapy can work best for you.
Individual results may vary. Always seek the advice of your health provider with any questions regarding a medical condition.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Stillman and Company. Almost just left myself muted there, Joe. It's like you're rubbing off on me since we have you on the show right now. Joe Rexroad joins us now for Jared versus Joe, brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Joe, we ended that last segment talking about what are the priorities for the Titans, you know, who's staying, who's going, who's getting cut. And we talked about it earlier on the show. Are the Titans going to cut Julio Jones? I personally, it depends on when they do it. Taking a $4.8 million cap hit is definitely not as bad as 13 pre-June 1st. But if that is the avenue that the Titans decide to go down, is cutting Julio Jones, what do you think their plan is at the wide receiver 2 spot?
Right, and that's the thing is, you know, so you've got to proceed with your plan. Obviously, you got to make, you know, decisions for other additions before that. I mean, look, that money could be, you know, to your point, I mean, it's not like former dead money is devastating. The cap's going up, and you're saving about 10, I believe. So, I mean, I think you could make the case to do that. But I just feel like the way the season ended for Julio Jones, it wasn't the kind of performance that validates the second-round pick and taking on his whole salary. But it was pretty good. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Lewan. How do you feel about, you know, what he's going to be physically next year? If I'm the Titans and I feel like, okay, I think he's past this hamstring stuff that plagued him for, you know, parts of 2 years, and he's at least going to be that guy, a pretty good 2, like he was at Houston, where he had his only touchdown, and I thought he played pretty well against Cincy. I think if that's the Julio Jones you get, I still think there's value in keeping him around and maybe hoping that, you know, he finds a little bit of fountain of youth and even does a little bit more than that. And then on top of that, I think they really need a speed guy. And we've been talking about the speed guy with the Titans for a long time, and they tried Taywan Taylor, and that didn't work out. And, you know, they had kind of Khalif Raymond was a nice story a little bit, but they need someone who just scares the heck out of a defense, that scares safeties, that takes the top off, Like if they were sitting there in Jameson Williams, and I know he's coming off the ACL, so make all the John Robinson jokes, but if he was there, I would jump at that. Like that's the kind of guy I feel like they need. And then I feel like you're talking about a potentially, really good trio with a healthy Julio, obviously A.J. Brown. You're hoping he can stay healthy and take the next step, and a young receiver that you can invest in and hope develops into. They need some new blood, to me, without question, the passing game, and of course that goes for tight end too.
Joe, I hear ya, but I feel like you're taking a glass half full approach to this Julio thing. I don't think that a hamstring injury is something that you can just get past. We've seen it with A.J. Brown. We've seen it with Julio Jones. It's been plaguing them for A.J. Brown, not as long as Julio Jones, but it's something that comes up all the time. And can Julio find a fountain of youth at 32, 33 years old? No way. He's gotten to that point. Mark brought it up earlier. A wide receiver hits a wall, and they just don't necessarily come back. Julio had a great career. Julio had a great run. I just can't believe that it's like, okay, he had an off year. He was injured, but he's gonna be reignited next year. I just have a hard time believing that. I am out on Julio being able to make any sort of major contribution to this team.
Well, I hear you. I guess, let's just take those last 2 weeks, though. Would you take that? Like, I don't have his numbers in front of me. It was in both games he had 6 catches, 70 yards, whatever. He was a possession receiver. He's a guy who knows how to get open. He produced. And he didn't have hammy stuff for I want to say, I don't know, the last probably 6-7 weeks or so. You're right. You don't know. And again, this comes to the question of the Titans, like, you gotta have an instinct for that. You gotta have a feel for, for whether he is past it or can be past it. And if you don't feel that, and if you don't feel confident about it, then I'm with you. I just thought it finally kind of ended as a storyline. He finally was on the practice field week after week, and then again at the very end, at least it was not vintage Julio. And I agree with you. He's not going to be that guy. He's not going to be Atlanta Julio Jones again.
No.
But I would take. You could do a lot worse than what he gave you. Is it worth the money? No, but remember, you already also invested a ton to have him. So if you can get a decent number 2 receiver season out of him in 2022, that at least defrays some of the massive costs that you plowed into getting him.
What are they going to do about the offensive line, chiefly because obviously Saffold probably isn't coming back? And do you think Dylan Radins at any point will be a starter?
Well, I think Dylan Radins has to be the starting right tackle. Do I think he will be? I don't know. I'll say that before the Niners game happened, I would have been a lot more pessimistic about that. I've got to think that there's some confidence drawn from that on both ends, on his side and the coaching staff side. He's got to. You spent a second-round pick. Now, look, if he's not up to it, then you also can't put him out there. But I think every opportunity for him to be the starting right tackle should be afforded. I think you're moving on from Saffold. I think you've got to try to bring Ben Jones back. He's a free agent. It's amazing to me that Ben Jones is like 32, 33. I swear he's like my age, but no, he's not. He's actually still a young guy. He's just been so
You're a young guy,
up.
Joe.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's all relative. I sang along with the whole halftime show Sunday. That's right. I'm sorry, that makes me old. No, but I think you got to sign Ben Jones. You got to hope, like Nate Davis has got to have a bounce back year. For whatever it was, he had some different injuries in camp. During camp, you don't need to get specifics on that. And he was on the COVID list, but he was, to me, one of the bigger disappointments on this team after the way he played in 2020. So you need him to bounce back. I think you need Jones back. You need Radins to have an amazing offseason. I think you have to have Lewan. Hey, if you can convince Lewan to take a pay cut, great, worth a shot. And then left guard, is Aaron Brewer good enough for that? I don't know. Is that where you have to invest a draft pick somewhere? Maybe. But if all those things come together, it's possible that they could be better up front.
Speaking to Joe Rexrode, of course, writes for The Athletic, hosts a radio show here, and is a charter member of the Snoop Dogg fan club. But
you and me both, Joe. D-O-double-G.
Joe,
baby.
Ryan Tannehill's post-game comments did not sit well with me. I don't think he took enough responsibility for the loss. I want to hear my quarterback say, it's all on me. And as much of a goofball as I think Aaron Rodgers is, he is accountable when he doesn't play well. And I think that bothered some people. How did it sit with you?
Well, I know I didn't like it. Look, I think Ryan Tannehill is kind of programmed to go with the "it's not about me" narrative after games, and that's fine. And certainly that means when things go well, and things have gone mostly well, and they went extremely well in his first 2 years. Very much giving credit to others, deflecting all that stuff. But look, there have been other times this year. I mean, I don't blame him for not saying a lot specific after the Houston game when he threw 4 picks, because 2 of them, it was pretty obvious that Des Fitzpatrick being in the game was the bigger problem there. So fine, you're not going to say, hey, those aren't on me. You're going to be vague. After that last game, it was on him, and he has to say so. He's got to say so. And I thought it was disappointing, and we gave him multiple opportunities to say so too, by the way, and he didn't do it. And then he doesn't come out and talk on cleanup day, which I think was disappointing. Again, when that happens, and only one guy on offense did come out, it was A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown is doing what out there? He's answering for Ryan Tannehill. He's answering questions about Tannehill, and that shouldn't be anyone else's jobs but Ryan Tannehill's job. So I was surprised and disappointed that he did it that way. And look, I agree on the field that he's tough, because they've talked about his toughness a lot since the end of the season. He is. He's tough. He's a good leader. All accounts in that building, people respect him a ton. I think he and Kevin Byard are right there in terms of respect to the whole building. But being tough and being a leader also comes in those moments, and he didn't measure up in those moments.
Joe, our resident basketball expert, want to switch gears a little bit with you. Last night, Tennessee with a huge statement win over the 4th-ranked team in the country in Kentucky. Are the Vols the real deal? We've seen both sides of Tennessee. We've seen them being able to beat the best teams in the country and the Kentuckys of the world, and then you've seen them, drop kind of some mindless games that they had no mind in losing. What is this Tennessee team? And I heard someone say yesterday, Sweet 16, Elite 8, easy for this team. I'm not quite there yet, but in your opinion, what is this Tennessee team? Are they the real deal?
I'm really starting to become a believer, Caroline. And look, I wrote about Zakai Ziegler today. I'd probably write about him every other day if I could. That might be overkill for the subscribers, but I just think he's just an incredible find. It does remind me of the Grant Williams find a few years ago for Rick Barnes. I don't know how the heck. I get why Ziegler, because he's probably 5'7", 5'8", but he's so good. And he's so tough, and they have missed that mindset. They have missed the dog mindset. Get on the floor, get in the scrum, talk a little trash if you need to. Someone makes fun of your height, get on a chair and do a gator chomp at them, as they're walking out the building after taking an L. I mean, he, to me, has changed their approach, and he's a freshman. But then you've got a lot of talent. Kennedy Chandler, I feel like, is starting to find his game. Josiah James is hitting shots to go with everything he does. Vescovy's been good all year. And now they have this freshman big, Jonas Adu, who had, he was on the COVID list. He had mono. He had an ankle. He basically had a redshirt half season. But you can see why he's a 5-star recruit or a 4-star or whatever. He's a top 40 recruit out there, making a difference. I think they've got a lot to offer. I mean, the biggest probably argument against them making a run is that Rick Barnes and his March record. But I think this team has a real chance to be playing well into next month.
Yeah, that was my next question, Joe. His postseason bona fides aren't exactly impressive. You have written about the fact that that Barnes has had great talent, and he's maybe a good coach. Can he coach up to his talent?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I would say he's better than a good overall coach and better than a good regular season coach, and he's probably a less than average, postseason coach. But I mean, what matters the most, right? I mean, he's had some incredible teams and players, and mostly underwhelmed. Now, he also did get to the one Final Four with T.J. Ford with a blur of a point guard who carried that team, and that was a great team, and they got there. They got to the Final Four the one time, my gosh, 19 years ago. How depressing. So, he does have the 2 point guards on this team, and the last time they had a chance, they had Jordan Bone, and look, that team could have made a run, I mean, it was an insane game against Purdue at the NCAA tournament. It's not like there's no way a team of his can make a run. It does, I feel like that's the key is those point guards, 2 freshmen playing off each other so well. Can he get them to play their best and mistake-free and handle the pressure of March Madness?
I love the way they guard, and you alluded to that. I just think that this team is a little bit mentally tougher. I think Ziegler, you're right. He's like Mateen Cleaves, isn't he? But, I just like the affect of this team. And the way they guard, and they don't have to have a great offensive night to win games.
I agree, and that's and they've got depth too, and I was worried about shooting with them, but I think that they've figured that out too, especially with Ziegler hitting shots the way he is. So I think Vols fans, you can dip your toe back in the water. It's okay. It's okay. Come along for the ride.
Talking to Joe Rexroad. Joe, we appreciate you, and I hope that your doctor gives us a big thank you because I'm sure your blood pressure from 5 to 5:30 on Wednesday this week was much lower than it normally is.
Well, it's been great. It's been great talking with you two. It's been a great conversation. I will say, I think I kind of use that as an outlet, though, to, release some things, screaming at Jared. So, I don't know. I may need to go, scream at one of my kids now just to sort of get it out of my system. But it's been fun. Thanks,
go get
guys.
a stress ball or something. All right, Joe, we appreciate you. This is Joe Rexroad. You can check him out tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 with Robbie Stanley on Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning on 102.5 The Game. Coming up next, we'll get into some of your Titans thoughts, your calls, your texts, everything that we've missed today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You're listening to Stillman & Company, and we are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with a shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur with words from another happy payroll customer.
I've used it for a year now, and I've worried 0 time. I just enter in the time, it's calculated, and it's taken out of a bank account, and it's just done. I love it.
Visit us at patriotsoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's patriotsoftware.com.
Accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
If you suffer from chronic joint pain, don't assume that steroid shots, pain pills, and surgery are your only options. You can call now to get real, lasting, life-changing relief from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using biologic therapies to repair damaged tissue in your aching joints. The success rate is staggering. People with knee and back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, they're moving again, enjoying life again with help from QC Kinetics. This advanced, unique treatment protocol uses natural biologic agents, mostly from your own body. These powerful, highly concentrated growth factors are put directly into your affected joint, going to work to soothe the inflammation and restore damaged tissue. A truly regenerative treatment. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Finally, a new, different, highly successful approach to dealing with joint pain. Is it time you got a second opinion? Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics now. 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
Third Eye Blind, live in concert. Summer Gods Tour 2022 with Taking Back Sunday and special guest Hockey Dad. First Bank Amphitheatre, July 27th. 3 bands, one incredible night. Get tickets this Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. Part of the Farm Bureau Insurance Concert Series.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Tonight.
Good again. Miles Studi having himself a night.
The Commodores hit the road to take on the Auburn Tigers. Coverage begins at 7:30 on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Caroline Fenton joined by Mark Howard filling in for Jared Stillman today. We've got your text to get to. I apologize. I've been ignoring your phones all day today, so we'll get to some of your texts. We have one texter that texts in about Julio Jones. Says, Julio, maybe keep him, maybe not, but no way for $13 million. Reduce his salary, maybe. I don't really think that that's up to the Titans to reduce his salary. I mean, they signed that contract. They made that contract for him. Yeah. They made that bed, and they have to lie in it.
Yes, they do.
I mean, unless Julio is willing and able to accept a salary reduction, but I don't think that's necessarily anything that is in Julio's interest.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
And I don't think it's something that Julio has to do.
No.
I mean, you talk about, there's a lot of conversation about, for example, Russell Wilson potentially taking a salary cut next year in order to get a few more weapons. There's a conversation about Ryan Tannehill potentially taking a salary cut next year to get more weapons and to free up some salary cap space. But by no means does Julio Jones have to take that on.
No, he doesn't. And, Julio Jones will get his money whether he plays or he doesn't. So I don't think he's necessarily of the mind to take a pay cut.
Another texter texts in and about Julio as well. We've got a lot of texters intrigued about Julio Jones. As a better passing quarterback would have had a better season with Julio, even with the injuries. I don't know if I subscribe to that belief. I mean, logic would say that a wide receiver would have better stats if there was more of a passing game, if there was more of an accurate passer. But I think that there are a few elements here at play. The chemistry between Ryan Tannehill and Julio Jones, you could see, just wasn't necessarily there. I mean, Tannehill was targeting A.J. Brown, Mason Kinsey, Marcus Johnson, Nick Westbrook-Akina. They were getting targeted way more than Julio Jones, and it's not because Ryan Tannehill isn't, quote-unquote, a better passing quarterback. It just means that it wasn't there. And then you can also look at, okay, well, Julio Jones had very underwhelming stats this year, but part of that is because he just wasn't available. I don't know off the top of my head how many games Julio was out, or Julio left at the half, or Julio was in and out in between quarters. But, I mean, it doesn't matter if you have Tom Brady or if you have Jameis Winston. If your wide receiver isn't playing games, your wide receiver is not going to have quality stats.
No, you're absolutely right. And even when, like you said, even when Julio was out there, he wasn't targeted very much by Ryan Tannehill. And to me, that told you all you needed to know about how he felt about him. I mean, nothing personal to Julio, but the fact remains that it just wasn't going to happen. And he wasn't getting open. And to me, that's the first prerequisite if you want the ball thrown to you.
Another texter texts in and says, I'm not sure what kind of free agent receivers are going to be out there, what kind of wide receivers will be in the draft, but I think the Titans should keep Julio. Now, in my opinion, I don't know if there's a reason to justify keeping Julio other than the money.
Well, the other part of this is, Caroline, if the Titans want to go free agency with a wide receiver, which they could do, the wide receiver class right now is flooded.
Oh, yeah.
It might be the biggest position group or the position group that has the most players in free agency. And if that's the case, supply and demand, man, that's really what it is. The more receivers out there, logic would tell you, the cheaper you can get one. So, if you want to go the budget route, I could see the Titans doing that. I don't know if they're going to find their number 2 receiver, but I think they'll get another complimentary receiver and perhaps somebody that'll be more productive than Julio Jones.
Another texter texts in and asks about the Titans' plan at tight end. Says, would the best option for the Titans to pick up a tight end this year would be in the draft or in free agency? I mean, you've got some pretty solid tight ends on the market out there. I mean, of course, you have Zach Ertz and you have Rob Gronkowski that are out there for a very high price tag. Jared was talking about this yesterday, that if the Titans want to go, quote-unquote, all in, Rob Gronkowski is that guy to go after. And I vehemently disagree. Because what are we talking about Julio Jones, and what's the issue with Julio Jones? Old, hurt, expensive.
Yeah.
Gronk has...
Time machine players.
Exactly. And Gronk is worth $8 million. Gronk is, like a Frankenstein held together by a bunch of different surgical parts. Gronk is getting up there in age. He already retired, and he came back. I understand that Gronk had a ton of production this past year. But is that because he was with a quarterback that he's been with almost his entire career? Is that because he already has existing chemistry with Tom Brady? Tom Brady is a passing quarterback, and Tom Brady trusts Rob Gronkowski?
Rob Gronkowski isn't coming here. As much as he probably likes Vrabel, and they're probably boys, he's not coming here to block at this point of his career. And, he knows how, what the Titans run. And that a tight end is not going to get the amount of targets that he'd get in Tampa. But the fact remains right now, Tampa Bay is capped out. Gronkowski doesn't want to come in at a discount. And I think Gronkowski might wait to see if Brady comes back and if he goes somewhere. So that to me is not a big option.
My approach with Gronk is if Brady retires, Gronk retires. If Brady comes back, Gronk follows with him. And wherever Tom Brady lands, they'll find the cap space for Rob Gronkowski's $8 million cap hit. But we will go back to your phone, 615-737-1025. Jason is up next.
Hey, I'm really enjoying you, Mark. I like your insight. But a couple of things for the Titans. We have to try to maximize some of the money we're putting into Julio. I'm thinking an offseason of him getting healthy and working with Tannehill on timing. We should see some improvement. But the biggest improvement, or if you want to see the improvement out of the Titans offense, I think you need to shore up that offensive line the right side and get a big tight end out of the draft to occupy between the numbers. We are all well aware that Tannehill's arm, at least what they say, isn't the strongest in the league. He likes throwing between the numbers, and it'll take a lot of pressure off those receivers on the outside with another option cutting through there. And we've got what? Wademeyer, I hope I said that right. What's the other tight end? Is his name Myers? I'm losing them. You guys will probably know. But there's a lot of tight ends coming out, and I think if we shore up those two positions, I think we'll start seeing the offense of old. And to couple that with a great defense and our special teams is coming along, I believe we're going to see a productive season next year if those things happen. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Jason. A couple things I want to address there. First and foremost, he talked about Julio getting healthy in the offseason and building that chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. I don't think that with the injury that Julio is dealing with, it's not something that you just heal and get better. Once you tear that hamstring, it's more susceptible to tear again. It's the same thing with an ACL. Once you tear it once, it's easier to tear it again. And you also have to consider Julio's age. He's not young in wide receiver standards. So if he's already having hamstring issues now, he's going to continue to have hamstring issues the older he gets and the more pressure he puts on it. Now, I do think, if the Titans do decide to hold on to Julio Jones, that chemistry is something that can be built in the offseason with Ryan Tannehill. It was difficult bringing him in later in free agency and then not getting a ton of practice time in training camp, not being able to build that chemistry in the preseason when the Titans had kind of that mini COVID outbreak in the preseason. So I think, yeah, that chemistry absolutely can be built both on and off the field in the offseason. But the injury that Julio is dealing with, that's a soft tissue injury that will nag you for the rest of his career.
I don't think it's a timing thing or a chemistry thing with Tannehill. I think it's a not getting open thing.
Also very fair.
So that's obviously at least partially attributable to his hamstring issue. But unlike Joe Rexrode, I do not share the optimism, much like you, that the hamstring issues are in the rearview mirror. I just don't. And I think it's going to be persistent if he comes back next year. And, a theme that I guarantee you that you and Jared will beat to death.
Oh, I'm sure. We tend to do that.
Yeah. No.
We do tend to do that. One last text. One texter checks in and says, if Derek doesn't get hurt this year, he gets 2,000 yards and a golden ticket to Canton. Do you agree? One part of this that I want to address, because I feel like so much of the conversation about Julio Jones is he can get healthy in the offseason when he gets healthy. And so much of the conversation about Derrick Henry is, is his foot going to nag him in the future? Is this foot going to be a recurring issue? You got to flip-flop those mindsets because they're totally different injuries. I'm no doctor. I do not claim to be, and I don't want to be. A soft tissue injury is something that will continue to nag you moving forward. Derrick Henry has a bone problem. People break bones a lot. You break your arm, your bone heals, and then your arm is fine. You're not more susceptible to break your arm again just because you broke it one time. That's a bone injury. So to say if Derrick doesn't get hurt this year, of course that's a factor that's in play all the time. That's going to be an issue whether you're Derrick Henry or whether you're Randy Bullock. But the whole issue of, re-injuring his foot, I don't think should be the number one concern for Titans fans. But if he does get 2,000 yards again, is it a golden ticket to Canton? I think it's pretty darn close.
Pretty close. Thank you, Dr. Fenton, by the way.
I mean, I'm just taking the wise words of Stephania Bell, someone who her medical advice is by the Bible.
No, absolutely.
Coming up next, we'll get into more of your texts. And also, go to theGameNashville.com/deals to check out Nashville's best deals. Right now, there are deals for everything from $50 off to Woodhouse Spa, half off dining at the Mainstay and Hard Rock Cafe, half off to Brooklyn Bowl, plus $50 free with a purchase of $100 in downtown dollars. Check out all these new deals now at theGameNashville.com/deals.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red Weather Alert.
On Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus, Code Red weather does take us into Thursday. Thunderstorms afternoon into the early evening hours are likely. Severe weather possible. As these storms roll in, all types of severe weather cannot be ruled out in our forecast.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about the folks at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is just around the corner, and if your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Early Spring Special in the month of February. Save up to $1,000 for Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York-certified comfort expert company.
At Copper Branch, they live life to the fullest. Food is your energy and your life. Located in the heart of downtown Nashville, their goal is to serve you, your friends, and family quality, great-tasting, plant-based power foods. Visit Copper Branch at 601 Church Street for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with convenient and validated parking during library hours. And download their app for curbside pickup. Or come out for songwriter and live music nights several times throughout the week to empower, energize, and feel your best. Visit Copper Branch today.
Hey, team, it's a full house. We got to pick up the pace.
At Hank's restaurant, the line goes around the block.
This for 12? Okay, I need the truffle oil drizzle.
What he needs is another line cook.
Oh, man. Are the quail breasts still in the sous vide? Dave, can you keep an eye on that, please?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone, America's #1 brakes destination. Right now, you can do the complete job and get a great deal when you buy a set of Duralast brake pads and rotors. It's also AutoZone's national hiring event. We're hiring all positions, from sales to warehouse and drivers, both part-time and full-time. Visit careers.autozone.com or any one of our stores.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Mashing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company. Caroline Fenton joined by Mark Howard, filling in for Jared Stillman today. Now, one national story that I want to get to before we leave tonight. The Dallas Cowboys just came out today that they paid a confidential settlement of $2.4 million to their cheerleading squad after one of the members, a long-standing senior vice president of public relations and communications, Richard Dalrymple, was caught taking videos and photos of the cheerleaders in the locker room as they were changing. Now, Mark, this was something that you definitely wanted to get to today. Your thoughts?
Well, only because Rich Dalrymple is like the OG of media relations guys, of PR guys. I mean, seriously, he was with the Cowboys forever. He retired. He maintains this had nothing to do with it, that the video was inadvertent. Whatever the case, the other video he took was up the skirt of Jerry Jones's daughter, married daughter, which he said was inadvertent.
He didn't mean it. He didn't know his phone was on.
I mean, I'm just telling you that Rich Dalrymple has been as much of a standard with the Cowboys as Jerry Jones the last 30 years. He came from Miami with Jimmy Johnson, and he stayed, and he just retired. I'm just telling you, the most prominent media relations guy, PR guy, Rich Dalrymple, had a sterling career, and now this, which could be a misunderstanding, I don't know, but this is going to stick to him whether he's right or he's wrong. And this is what I tell my kids. You can do 1,000 things right. You do one thing wrong. Sometimes that totally ruins your reputation. And it's really sad.
I mean, it's a bad look for the Cowboys organization. It's a bad look for the league as well. Because the past couple of weeks, it has just been domino after domino after domino that has fallen. I mean, you look at Brian Flores, the Dolphins saying that they would pay him $100,000 per loss, which compromises so much of the integrity of the league. It comes down to legal repercussions. You can have the discussion about the Rooney Rule and Brian Flores accusing general managers and organizations of quote-unquote sham interviews. And then this comes out.
Well, Mike Florio wrote on ProFootballTalk.com, and Mike is a trained lawyer. And he's right. $2.4 million is chump change for Jerry Jones.
Exactly.
It was... They call stuff like this maybe a nuisance lawsuit. It looks a lot worse than it really is. But unfortunately, Rich Dalrymple, is in the crosshairs. Whether he did it unintentionally or not, I don't know. I don't know how.
It's still a bad look.
Yeah, it's a really bad look. And it's a guy, like I said, who had an impeccable reputation around the league. So when I saw his name attached to this story, I was like, wow.
I mean, and you also look at everything that unfolded in Washington. with Dan Snyder and all the
well,
accusations.
that's a whole different deal.
Long list of accusations
And those
against Dan
and
Snyder.
those of us who have covered the Titans for a long time hated to see former media relations director Tony Wiley's name attached to some of that. Tony left Washington and is an executive with the Special Olympics. But yeah, the thing in Washington, Caroline, I think is serious. It's real. And the league and Washington and Dan Snyder have tried to sweep a lot of this under the rug or not let some of the women interviewed, make their comments public. So we'll see what happens there. The league hired a former U.S. attorney to investigate the NFL side of the Brian Flores thing. So maybe we'll have some transparency there.
And when I compare all of these things, I want to establish the fact that I understand that the severity of each of these incidents varies. And the information that has yet to come out absolutely can change the public perception. But with all of these things happening so closely to one another, all of these stories of, harassment in the workplace or compromising the integrity of the game, it's a really bad look for the league. And it's unfortunate that all of these stories are starting to come out, and it's problems that the NFL absolutely needs to address.
And it's unfortunate for the league coming off the best postseason they've ever had. Best TV ratings, money's pouring in. But
Super
you're
Bowl
right.
ratings up over the past couple of years.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, they've got to address this stuff. It's not just going to go away.
That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate Mark Howard filling in for Jared Stillman today. Appreciate
Always
you,
a pleasure.
Mark. Smashville Live is up next. We've got Max Hers in the house, going to be joined by Luke Cunnin and company, breaking down the Preds game last night, moving forward, what the Predators season looks like.